Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, joining me as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all that sorts of good stuff. And joining me here today, as they oft do on Thursdays, first of all, is actress Erin Cummings. Erin, how you doing?
I'm doing great, John. Happy to be alive.
And it's good. You're back from Comic-Con. You were out at Comic-Con for a couple of days.
My sunburns are all gone now.
That's awesome. And also joining us here today is the one and the only Kris Carr. Kris, how you doing?
I'm doing great. And I was in the chat earlier. I am real, everybody. The real Kris Carr.
She's actually a real person. Hey, listen, guys, we do have a bunch of things that we need to cover here today, not to mention a movie news feed a little bit later. We're going to be taking your live questions a little bit later as well. But before we get into our main topics, let's kick things off with this. This morning, a brand new trailer for the upcoming Ang Lee film Gemini Man, starring Will Smith, Mary Elizabeth Winstead,
Clive Owen.
What's that?
Clive Owen.
Clive Owen. I was going to say from Children. Why did I freeze in Clive Owen? Clive Owen dropped this morning. And I'll tell you what, I liked the first trailer. The first trailer that came out, it was interesting. It has some cool ideas. The younger Will Smith visual effects are really good. And I thought, oh, this looks good. This one to me looks great. This one to me just flat out looks great. I love what we're seeing here. I thought it looked fantastic. I thought it had, the action that I wanted to see. I thought it had the intensity to it. It had, all the hallmarks of a classic Ang Lee film while also having a couple of other incredible looking people. And I'll tell you what, there's this one shot in it, guys, where young Will Smith is coming at older Will Smith with the motorcycle, slams on the front brake, spins out the back tires. Like, okay, that's the money shot of the movie. That right there was the money shot of the movie. I thought it looked spectacular. So I'll tell you what, I've always said that the job of a trailer is to take your enthusiasm level for a movie, no matter how low it is or how high it is, and bump it up a couple of notches. That's the job of a trailer. Mm-hmm. And this trailer did that for me. I've gone from being, I'm looking forward to that, to, okay, now I can't wait to see this. This looks fantastic to me. Anyway, Erin, you had a chance to watch it for the first time this morning, just like everybody else. Mm-hmm. What did you think about this trailer?
I thought it was phenomenal. I mean, I agree with you. And there's actually two motorcycle shots that stick out in my mind, not just the one where it flies around to the side, but also the straight ahead one, which when you watch the trailer, you'll totally understand what I'm saying. You need to watch it immediately. I'm also excited about this because Will Smith has been gunning for an Oscar. He wants his statue. And interestingly enough, even though this isn't the genre of film that normally would lend itself to an Academy Award nomination, the fact that he is playing two ages of himself, and it's hard not to see young Will Smith as that vulnerable kid in some of those vulnerable moments from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He wasn't all, making jokes all the time and just goofing around. He did have a lot of vulnerable moments on that show, and I really saw him, even in the trailer, tapping into that. So I love the fact that even though he's done some more highbrow, serious dramas, he's now incorporating the same level of his talent that he has as an actor into the thing that we love him most for, which is high action, Will Smith saving the day, and great stunts. And
also throw in there his known for his quippy one-liners.
Yes.
The thing, the little preview of the trailer that I saw was like, how come they sent you after me? Because I'm the best. Clearly you are not the best. That was a wonderful line. Yeah. Kris, you had a chance to watch this trailer this morning. What did you think about it?
I think this second trailer is so much better than the first one. We were talking off camera, you guys. The first time I saw the original trailer, I think it was right before Endgame, maybe. So I didn't care about anything anyway. I just wanted to get to my movie. But I wasn't impressed. I just thought, oh, this looks like a hackier version of Looper. I'm not into it. This trailer made me absolutely want to go see this. This looks so cool, and I gotta support my girl Mary Elizabeth. Drunk people always think I'm her at bars, so I gotta keep going with her stuff.
I love her. I've always loved her from like just about everything she's ever done. I even like that little The Thing kind of reboot prequel sequel thing they did. I even liked her in that. Not that I love that movie, but I liked her in that a lot. But what this trailer did for me is that it reminded me, this is an Ang Lee film. Because the first trailer doesn't scream Ang Lee. I mean, Ang Lee's a great director and everything, and you watch that and you don't really feel Ang Lee's DNA on the first trailer. This trailer comes out, and it's like, oh, yeah, this is an Ang Lee film. And I loved what we saw. And now I've gone from being interested in this movie to dying to see it. Guys, the question is, what did you think about this new trailer for Gemini Man? Did it increase your excitement for it? Did it not do anything for you? Jump down in the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down and out of the way, let's now move on to our main topics today. How do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. You guys come up with the main topics by simply going to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you're there, simply fill out the form with your topic or question, hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your topic or question featured here on the John Campea Show. With that down and out of the way, Kris, what is our first main topic today?
We are hearing from Brain Teflon. Sad news today about the passing of Rutger Hauer. I know he's done a lot since and enjoyed a remarkable career, but I'll always think of him in Blade Runner. He was indeed the candle that burned brightest. Just wanted to get your thoughts on Hauer and his impact. Thanks. John, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, I was really sad to hear yesterday. Apparently, it happened right near the end of the John Campea Show yesterday is when official word came out about the passing of Rutger Hauer. I mean, look, obviously, when most people think about his career, they'll think about Blade Runner. I mean, and for obvious reasons, it's one of the all-time classics. However, you guys know, Blade Runner is not my favorite film. I'm not actually a big film of. I'm one of the only people in the world who's not a big fan of the original Blade Runner. I like Blade Runner 2049 quite a bit, but whenever I think of Blade Runner, I think of him. I mean, that's the only thing you can do. But I will tell you what, while most people, when you ask them, you think of Rutger Hauer, what do you instantly think of? Most people understandably will say Blade Runner. Not me. When I think of Rutger Hauer, I think of him and Michelle Pfeiffer and Matthew Broderick in Lady Hawk. I remember back in the day when me and a couple of friends of mine, we had a house together. And Lady Hawk was one of the movies I would play a lot. I mean, we would watch Best of the Best. We would watch that a lot. And we would watch Lady Hawk. And we were all musicians in the house at the time, so we also watched a lot of Peter Gabriel, one of his concert videos. But Lady Hawk was the one for me. Now, of course, he's done a lot of other stuff, and he's done a lot of stuff in recent years, too. Like, one of the little films that he did that got a lot of people's attention in the indie world was, like, Hobo with a Shotgun, which got a lot of people buzzing and talking about it. But he just had one of these... He's one of those rare talents that when he was on screen, you knew he was on screen. You know, he had that commanding presence, whether it was his really unique, defined look, or whether it was that voice of his, whatever it was, Rutger Hauer commanded the screen when he was on it. And there's not a lot of performers like that that you can point to and say that so definitively, that he was just such an obvious presence there. And I was really sad to hear about him passing away, age of 70, which is really far too young. 75 is way too young for this guy to pass away. But anyway, Erin, you heard about the passing of Rutger Hauer. When you think of him, what are some of the first things that come to your mind?
You know, there's a term that popped into my head as soon as I heard, and it's a term that applies to the actor who just has that career that spans for decades and may be known for one thing or the other because of that particular project's notoriety, but really has had a continuous nonstop career. And that's a journeyman actor. A journeyman actor is really someone, I mean, you have to also remember, Rutger Hauer did not like make his debut in Blade Runner. He had been a working actor for well over a decade prior, you know, not just in America, but also, I believe he's native Danish. I believe.
I think so, yeah.
Yes. And so Blade Runner was just one stop on his train of success as a long-term working actor. And I think that if you ask the average American, you know, do you know who Rutger Hauer is? A lot of people won't know the name or would not necessarily be able to say, oh, he was in this project or that project, but he's had a substantial career and made an incredible impact and has really been someone that a lot of actors and filmmakers can look to as a stable, you always know this person is going to do the job when they go on the screen.
Kris, you heard about this. What were your reactions?
Oh, man. I didn't see Blade Runner till much later in my life, post-college and everything. So I first got introduced to him via Batman Begins and Sin City.
Right.
And his role in Sin City, he is not in there for long, but whew.
Yeah, what an impact he
Oh,
makes
my
in it.
gosh. And as, you know, a Catholic kid, everything about that was terrifying. But but he was an incredible actor, and then getting introduced to his work later on was really, really impactful. And I think, well, a whole lot of people probably don't know who he is, like you were saying, Erin. I think he's one of those guys, you know, like that documentary, What Do I Know You From? I think it's called like Those Guys or That Guy. And it's somebody who you can look at and say, I know I've seen you in something. And he always disappeared into his roles. And I think that is just a huge testament about his craft and his ability. He'll be sadly missed.
Well, guys, listen, when you think of Rutger Hauer, and you know, obviously it's a sad thing, but it's also a day to celebrate the career that he has and the films and the memories that he's given us forever. When you think of Rutger Hauer, what immediately comes to your mind? Is it one of his older films? Is it one of the more recent things? Jump down to the comment section and leave your thoughts there. All right, with that down and out of the way, let's move on to the second main topic today. Kris, what is our second main topic today?
This is from Tina Emilda. It was rumored that Robert Richardson would be the cinematographer for Matt Reeves' The Batman, but it was now confirmed that Greg Fraser will be the one behind the camera. He's worked on movies like Rogue One, Vice, Zero Dark 30, Foxcatcher, Matt Reeves' Let Me In, and Lion, which he got an Oscar nomination for. He's also working on Denis Villeneuve. Thank you, Dune. Are you excited for how this movie is going to be shaping up? For me, it only gets better with each announcement. Despite all of my stumbles and mispronunciations. What do you have to say about that, John?
Yeah, I mean, look, one of the things that I'm always saying here is that it is never a mistake to add talent. Whether it's somebody in front of the camera, whether it's somebody behind the camera. And when you're talking about cinematography, and I think that's one of the more overlooked things in comic book movies in particular. Like we talk a lot about, the people who star in it and the person directing it. And I think there are other genres of film where the cinematography gets appreciated more, but not a lot of love gets given to the comic book genre cinematographer. And it's not like anybody makes a career to that specifically, but when you're talking about bringing on an Academy Award nominated cinematographer into something like this. And I think even more important than that, even more important than the whole notion that he was nominated for an Academy Award for Lion, like you were mentioning, is that he has worked with this director before. The relationship, now we always talk about the relationship between the director and the actor, but the relationship between the director and their cinematographer is so freaking key. And you know what? It really plays in when you look at a movie like Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight movies. One of the things that's constantly talked about is visually how it's all shot and put together, and that gets lauded a lot. And I think for Matt Reeves to, number one, not only go and get an Academy level talent for cinematographer, but also somebody that he has worked with before, that he has a rapport with, that he's clearly comfortable with, I think that's really key. Now, none of this makes any difference if they don't make this movie. And I've been saying for a long time that this Batman movie to me is just one of these movies that it falls under the category of I'll believe it when I see it. Not because I have any doubts of the people, but it's just because Matt Reeves was announced to direct this movie years ago. And then nothing and nothing and nothing. Finally, here Robert Pattinson. Then we heard, okay, it's going to probably start shooting mid-2018. Then we heard, okay, it's going to start shooting mid-2000 or late 2018. Now we're hearing, it's going to start shooting January of 2019 or 2020, I should say. And I'm just like, look, stop telling me when you think it's going to start shooting and just let me know once the cameras start rolling. Then it will become real to me. Until then, but I got to say, the casting of Robert Pattinson is a big step towards that tangibilization that I was talking about before. Actually bringing on their cinematographer is another big step towards that tangibilization. Anyway, Erin, as somebody who's been on a lot of sets, both movies, television, stuff like that, how key is that relationship between the director and cinematographer and how well they communicate together? And what do you think about the addition of Greg?
It's so important. And here's why. It's very clear when I've been on set and I see that the director and the cinematographer have worked with one another before, because they have a shorthand. The director goes, this is what I see. And the cinematographer goes, like we did in the other thing. And then immediately they say, okay, actors go back to hair and makeup and we're rushed off to do our thing. And the cinematographer has the set and all of a sudden lights are moving and everything's working. I've also been on a set where I've seen the director trying to communicate something with the cinematographer, and the cinematographer has his or her head in the hands and just going, that's not going to, and you see the conflict. And meanwhile, all the actors are kind of standing around going, okay, I have a costume change and I have to do a whole hair change. It's going to take 45. And it immediately builds up a tension on the set. that you realize, okay, this whole ship is sinking. I find that the cinematographer-director relationship is so valuable as an actor because the director is going to tell me what I need to bring out from here, but I also trust in the cinematographer to help me with my technical performance.
Right.
So it is very important as an actor. And I think that you hit the nail on the head with the way that Wally Pfister, as the cinematographer for Christopher Nolan's Batman, he completely changed the look of the Batman franchise.
Yeah.
And I think that this is going to be a really exciting moment for the Batman franchise to change again. I mean, even in the Dark Knight Rises and Batman Begins, even the daylight scenes seemed like they were shot at night with just like a flash. Like everything was so dark. And when you think about Grieg, is that how you pronounce it?
Greg? I just pronounce it Greg, but...
Greg, when you think about Greg Fraser's work, even though he works on some really heavy material, and even the name Zero Dark 30, it's got a little bit of a lighter look to it. So I think that it's going to be a really interesting way for him to put his own color onto the Batman franchise, and I'm really excited to see how that changes.
Well, the question here, guys, is what do you think about this? They've hired another cinematographer. They're one step closer. Is this movie actually going to happen? Obviously, it is at some point, but I'll still believe when I see it. Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, with that down and out of the way, let's move on to our third main topic today already. All right, Kris, what is our third main topic today?
This is from Simple. Hey, John and crew. On yesterday's show, you've talked about a possible sequel for Aladdin, since it hit $1 billion at the box office. But what about a Lion King sequel? It will most likely make way more than Aladdin, so is a sequel likely, or do you think that Jon Favreau doesn't want to create another Lion King movie? Do you think we're getting a sequel?
Look, here's the thing. The reason to ask the question is fairly obvious. Lion King opened, put it in this context. Lion King opened as the second biggest opening for any film in history that was either not a comic book movie or didn't have the word Star Wars in it. If you take out comic book movies and movies with the word Star Wars in it, Lion King is the second biggest opening film of all time, only behind Jurassic World. It opened like $185 million. With comic book movies and Star Wars movies, it's the 9th largest opening in cinematic history. Now, if you flash back 6 months and ask John Campea of 6 months ago, like, do I think Lion King could open higher than the 9th all-time opening film? I would have said yes, but then the mixed reviews came out and that kind of pushed that down a little bit. But still, a very impressive opening, much bigger than Aladdin's opening. Aladdin's about to hit $1 billion. Lion King will probably get to $1 billion. We're talking about Aladdin getting a sequel. Will Lion King? It seems kind of like a no-brainer, right? No, I don't think so. Because, look, while it is probably going to hit $1 billion like Aladdin did, and whenever you hit $1 billion, you have to consider doing another film. You have to at least consider it. I think, Erin, there are a couple of fundamental differences here. Mm-hmm. Number one, without giving spoilers away to Aladdin, Aladdin ends a bit differently than the original animated Aladdin did. That really does lend itself more to a sequel than, say, the original Aladdin animated did. Like, the original animated Aladdin ended, it's like, oh yeah, that doesn't really open itself to a sequel, even though they did more anyway. This one, they changed their ending a bit to the point where it's like, yeah, I could see where they could go with this afterwards. Lion King, I don't sense that. And just like Aladdin, they did more Lion King animated stuff anyway, like Scar's illegitimate son or something like that. I don't know. But it was all bad. So there's that. The other thing was, the audience wasn't divided on Aladdin. The critics were divided on Aladdin, but the audience really seems to, in part, and for the most part, really did embrace Aladdin. I love Aladdin. I thought it was fantastic. While I think this Lion King, is better than the new Aladdin, there's a lot more division of opinion on it. The audience is more divided, I'm finding, on Lion King than they were on the Aladdin remake. And I think when you put together the ideas of, one, the audience seems more divided than they were on Aladdin. Number two, this doesn't ask for it. Unlike the ending for Aladdin, which does kind of suggest maybe a sequel, I don't feel that for Lion King. And, you know, Jon Favreau is coming off of Jungle Book, which he received nothing but universal praise and love for. And now he's taking some shots for Lion King. I don't know that he'd even want to go back to a Lion King at this point. Not to mention he's got a Jungle Book 2 that he's apparently supposed to want to be doing. He's got his Star Wars show, Mandalorian, coming up on Disney+. The world is his oyster right now, and he can probably do anything he wants to do. You add all that together, I'm going to guess we're not going to get a sequel, regardless of how much money it makes. I don't think we're going to get a sequel to this Lion King. What do you think?
I don't think that we should get a sequel. I mean, I understand that in certain genres of film, like the Fast and the Furious franchise, if all of a sudden the next Fast and the Furious came out and it made $100,000 at the box office, I think we would probably see the end of that franchise.
Right.
The reason that franchise continues is because people keep going to see it, and it doesn't really matter whether or not the story lends itself to another film. The Lion King is one of those special projects that I think should not be dictated. A sequel should not be dictated by how much money the original makes. And I can almost guarantee that if there is a sequel, Jon Favreau would not be involved in it. Beyonce would not be involved in it. Donald Glover would not be involved in it. And then it becomes that sad, The Lion King 2 that you sort of see in the supermarket, $5.99 bin. That's I don't think
With Pauly Shore as the voice of Simba.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh man, I'd watch it.
And so I don't think that it's a good idea, and I don't think that it's going to happen regardless of how much money it makes.
Do you think there's any possibility, though, here when you're talking about it, is that, the fact of the matter is, Disney is still a business.
Sure.
They're in this business to make money, and as such, their responsibility is to make product that makes money. Mm-hmm. Do you think there's any possibility, though, that a Bob Iger, like even if a Favreau says, I don't know if I want to do this, do you think there's any possibility that a Bob Iger, though, could kind of step in and say, hey, look, and say to Alan Horn and the rest of the people at Disney Pictures, say, look, I understand there are some roadblocks here. I understand you have apprehension. But we, the board, want another one.
Right.
Do you think there's any possibility he actually does that? Or does he go, look, we got too many other big things to deal with?
But what's the story? Simba grows up and he's the old king, and now he's got a son. Like, I don't know what the story is. And not only that, one of the reasons, and I said this before Lion King came out, I have a hair on my nose, so... Sorry. I said this before Lion King came out. One of the big draws is the fact that everyone knows all the songs. We've either seen the Broadway show a million times, or we've seen the cartoon a million times, or we all know it by heart. And so when we're going to see Lion King, we feel like we're going home. We feel like there's a familiarity to it. There is a sense of nostalgia that I think a lot of people really are excited about when they go to see this film. And that was one of the big draws about it that made it so popular. And if we're all of a sudden going to go see a new movie just about lions and about the wilderness with new songs and characters that we may not necessarily be familiar with, I don't think that it would have the same draw. So just because the original made money doesn't mean that some knockoff, which I think is what it would be, would have the same kind of value. And if I'm Bob Iger, I have to look at that and go, but what is the draw? Is it the name? No, the name is not it. It's the familiarity that everybody had with the original characters, the original songs, and the original story.
And, it's kind of to that point a little bit as well, is that I thought, as much as I love this version of Lion King, love it, the weakest part of the movie to me was the new song by Beyonce.
Oh, yeah.
And Beyonce is wonderful, don't get me wrong, but as soon as that new song started playing as they're running across the wilderness and everything, I remember thinking, this doesn't fit, doesn't work. And can you imagine doing an entire film with all new music and stuff like that? I think you hit the nail on the head. But the question here, guys, is what do you guys think about that? Do you think that they just go, you know what? We did The Lion King. We're going to make a lot of money. Time to move on. Or do you think they go, well, look, this thing's making so much cash. We have to do another one. What do you think they're going to do about that? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right. With that down and out of the way, let's move on to our fourth main topic today. Kris, what is our fourth main topic today?
This is from Aravanda Sen. One of the highlights from Comic-Con for me was the trailer for HBO's upcoming adaptation of The Watchmen. It looks like they're keeping the spirit of the graphic novel and movie and creating a brand new story within that world, and as a fan, I got excited. The movie was faithful to the source material, and I loved it, so I'm happy to see HBO take the show in a different direction. Have you seen this trailer, and what did you think? We checked this out just a little while ago. What'd you think, John?
I'm going to be honest with you. I was open to the idea of this Watchmen series. I thought it was an interesting choice to do it. I saw the first kind of little teaser they put out for it. I'm like, okay, as a teaser, it was fine. I'm like, okay, it's intriguing as a teaser. So now they put out their first big trailer. And I got to tell you, it doesn't really do anything for me. Now, look, understand this. I am not like what some of you guys are, which is a hardcore fan of the Watchmen. So take that with I've read Watchmen. I was mediocre on the movie itself. Most people either love or hate the Watchmen movie. I was down the middle of it. I thought it had its redeeming qualities, had its bad qualities as well. But I'm watching this trailer now. Granted, the first one was just a teaser, but this is kind of its second trailer. And I'm still like, I don't get any sense of what this show is. I really don't. I'm watching it and I'm like, you guys know I'm a sucker for this type of material, but I'm watching, I'm like, I'm getting no sense as to what the tone and the personality and the DNA and the story, and have just no idea what this is. You're showing me a bunch of images, like this one, which is pretty effing cool. You're showing me a bunch of images that, while standing alone and on their own, and I love seeing Louis Gossett Jr. in there, by the way, too. Just let me throw that in there. Officer and a Gentleman. Am I you, boy? Anyway, I didn't get any sense for what this movie is. I didn't get a sense of that it even had any sense of its own identity. Now, look, just because I found that to be the case with the trailer, that doesn't mean the show is that way. The show may be like the best thing ever done. We're only talking about the trailer at this point. But if we're going to ask the question is, did the trailer do its job to get somebody like me more excited for it? At this point, I gotta say no. The only thing about it that really got me excited, honestly, was this shot right here. You know, obviously they're alluding to maybe that's Dr. Manhattan. This is a great shot to put into a trailer, and that's the one part that I went, oh, you know. But overall, I have to admit, the trailer did not do the job of a trailer, which is to get me more excited than I was. I'm not dreading this show. I'm not looking forward to it, but as far as the trailer goes, this just didn't do it for me. Erin, you had a chance to watch this thing. Mm-hmm. Did it get you intrigued into the show, or how did you respond to it?
I'm with you, John. I have no idea what the show is about. And I'm glad that you said it first, because I was like, am I missing something here? I mean, and you're right. It looks really cool. But I will watch the show because I have to say, I love Regina King. And I am so happy. I was so happy to see that she is the star of this, because I went, you know what? This woman is finally like having her big moment. I mean, she's been a journeyman actor for her entire life, but I really love her, so I will watch it. I have to say, though, there was a moment when they lay the American flag over a coffin, and it's, you know, the American flag where the stars and the stripes are all messed up, and we don't know. It's
kind of an alternate world.
It's an alternate world, but I've been watching The Handmaid's Tale, and so it's really I have so much anxiety. I don't know if I physically can watch it, but I will, because it does look cool. But I watch the trailer and I go, but what's it about? I don't know. But again, it looks cool. I'll give it 2 episodes, and if I don't understand what's going on after 2 episodes, I'm probably gonna be out.
Yeah, Chris, at this point, there are probably some people watching the show screaming at their screens. If you know the graphic novel, you would know what's going on. To which I would say 2 things. I do know the graphic novel, not as well as some, but I know the graphic novel. And
I don't.
I'm not following the role, but I would propose this. If you have to, and I say this about every property, if you have to have read the graphic novel in order to understand the trailer, then you did a bad job making your trailer. Agreed. Like if you have to, if this trailer is only going to appeal to a certain portion of people who read and understood the graphic novel, then you did a terrible job making your trailer. So, and that's not to say that you should think that the trailer's terrible. I'm not suggesting that. It just didn't work for me. But I don't buy into the excuse of, well, you have to understand the graphic novel, because if that's the case, you didn't do your job. But anyway, Chris, you saw this trailer. Mm-hmm. What's your response to it? Are you liking it more than I am?
I am. I'm cautiously optimistic. So I am very familiar with the graphic novel. But you're right, though. You shouldn't have to have a whole backstory on reading these 12 issues to know the show. And no one likes an actually. You know, when a guy or a girl comes up to you and, actually, if you read the book, you'd understand this moment where he drops that mask. No one likes that. We want Lucky 10,000. We all want to go, oh my gosh, let me introduce you to my fandom. Come with me. This is going to be so fun. I'm so excited you don't know about this. And
Right.
that's what I'm hoping this show becomes. And what's more interesting to me is the stuff that's not in the trailer, but what the creators of the show have been saying. They've been talking about how that original graphic novel of The Watchmen, which, by the way, elevated the entire comic genre. If you ever have
Massive
any
influence.
doubts of like how good comics are, guys, or friends who can't get into comics, give them Watchmen. So good. I'm glad they're doing a different interpretation because it's so hard to adapt it because it took the medium in such a crazy way that no one had done before. But so that book is canon. They're not changing any of the history of that. That's going to be where everything is rooted in. I'm super excited for this alternate universe where we don't have internet, where cops have to mask themselves to protect themselves so no one can come after them.
That was interesting.
That's
I dug
fascinating.
the way they said that. That is one of the highlights of the trailer to me. Yeah.
So I'm really excited to see how this goes. And like any Alan Moore-based project, Alan Moore is not attached to this. So it's going to be interesting to see how a bunch of these people who are self-described fanboys and girls who are trying to make this and elevate this project, see how they interpret his work and see if they make him proud. Or if he'll just go hang out in his mountain, you know.
It's funny you bring up Alan Moore because I was reading, some comments from Damon Lindelof today, who's of course the showrunner of this. He's written this, talking about how it still keeps him up at night, the fact that Alan Moore will not endorse this. He said it bothers him. He's troubled because he respects him so much and all that kind of stuff. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes. Now, remember, I'm not saying this show is going to be bad. Not at all. We're just talking about the trailer. I just don't feel like the trailer did its job.
Really quick, just for a point of clarification, is Alan Moore not endorsing it because he doesn't believe in it or because he doesn't endorse anything?
He pretty much doesn't endorse anything.
I can't recall off the top of my head that.
So this isn't like him saying I don't approve of this project.
but
this is just him saying, "Hey man, I'm not."
No, he's pretty strict. He's like, do not put my name on this.
Yeah.
Do not use my name to promote this. Blah blah blah. But he did that with the original movie as well. If I'm not mistaken. It's just,
I believe V for Vendetta he didn't have himself attached to.
So that's just kind of his thing. He's like, I do the comic books and I do not endorse the film version of any of my projects.
it might be a little bit more crotchety than that. It might not just be, it's just simple policy. No, I think it might be a little bit more than that. But anyway, Damon Lindelof being attached, I think that's an intriguing thing. People love and hate Damon Lindelof stuff. I happen to kind of like it. Question is, guys, what did you make of the trailer for The Watchmen? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, with that down out of the way, let's move on to our final main topic today. Kris, what is our final main topic today?
Lastly, we're hearing from Val Emery. Hi, John. Thor Ragnarok is my favorite MCU movie to date. Yes, even above Infinity War. Ooh. One of the things I loved about the movie was Jeff Goldblum as the Grandmaster.
He was great.
Just wanted to see if you saw his post hinting that he could be back for Thor Love and Thunder. Do you think he'll be back, and do you think it's a good idea if they did? Thanks. Are you excited about Jeff Goldblum? Do you think he's coming back?
All right, so just so people understand, wait a minute, what's this? Jeff Goldblum said he's coming back? Okay, so here's what happened. We all know that at Comic-Con this past weekend, Kevin Feige, Taika Waititi, Chris Hemsworth, Natalie Portman all came on stage talking about Thor, Love and Thunder. Natalie Portman's going to be the new Thor. I don't like that at all, but whatever. I love Natalie Portman. But one of the things they did not mention was Jeff Goldblum and his Grandmaster from Thor Ragnarok. I love Thor Ragnarok. I love that movie. It's so much fun. And obviously one of the things that's great about it is Grandmaster. Now, they don't say it in the movie, but in the comic books, he and the Collector are actually brothers. He's actually the Collector's brother. So I don't know if they're ever going to tie those things together in the universe. And of course, if you watch Thor Ragnarok, you know Jeff Goldblum survives at the end of it. So he's still around. One of the greatest things Marvel's ever done, by the way, I don't know if you guys have seen, have either of you guys seen those sketches that Marvel has done online where Thor, with Chris Hemsworth playing Thor, he, in between a couple of movies, he moves to Australia and he gets her Daryl.
Yeah.
He gets a roommate, Daryl. Have you seen that? He just gets this average guy.
So cute.
And they're roommates. So here's Chris Hemsworth as Thor talking with his flatmate, Daryl. And they did, I think, two of them. And they're hilarious. They might have done more than that. But then what they did after Thor Ragnarok was they did one where Thor now moved out and Grandmaster moved in. And Grandmaster Jeff Goldblum is now rooming with Daryl. It's awesome. And Taika Waititi directed that. Anyway, if you guys haven't seen it, you guys got to look up these sketches because they are absolute 100% gold. Anyway, so where is all this talk coming from about, Jeff Goldblum hinting he's coming back as Grandmaster? Well, here's where this is coming from. Jeff Goldblum got on social media and he posted the following. He posted, "Love and Thunder 2021. Thanks, Taika Waititi." And he put up this graphic, says, "Thor, Love and Thunder, and not forgetting the Grandmaster." Okay, so there's a couple of ways to look at this, guys. The one way to look at this is basically Jeff Goldblum has just winked to the audience that we're going to see Grandmaster come back. And why not? It does make sense. Grandmaster has an axe to grind with Thor. He has an intergalactic kind of reach. We know that he survives the end of Thor Ragnarok in a really funny post-credit scene. And he's Jeff Goldblum. Everybody loves him in this. And Taika Waititi loved working with him. It all makes sense. But at the same time, while that does make sense and that all does line up, I think we also have to look at what is possibly the obvious answer here. And that possible obvious answer is it's just Jeff Goldblum having fun, saying, "Hey, Taika Waititi," and not forgetting the Grandmaster, right? This could just be him kind of making a wink to Taika Waititi or something like that, just purely in fun. I think Jeff Goldblum would just pick up the phone and call Taika Waititi if he wanted to role in the movie. But you have to look at the possibility that this was just a fun post. It's not him telling the audience that he's coming back or anything like that. If I had to put $5 on this, I would hum it about whether or not this is really him hinting that he's going to be in it versus this is just him having some fun. I would begrudgingly put my $5 towards I think he's going to be in it. Not super convinced. No conviction behind that at all. But if I had to put $5 on it, I'm guessing he would be in. Now, as far as whether I would want him in, abso-fucking-lutely yes. I would love to see him in this. Yeah, I loved him as Grandmaster. To have put him back, by all means, put him back in there. I think that would be fantastic. But I am not convinced that that's what he's doing. But if I had to put $5 on, that's where I'm leaning. Anyway, Erin, you're seeing all this and you've heard about all this. Do you think, number one, that he's trying to hint that he is going to be in it? And number two, do you think it would be a good idea to put him back in this new one?
He's definitely going to be in it. I mean, like, I don't think that these...
Not my begrudgingly.
I definitely think he's going to be. Because also, these tweets, you know, when you're dealing with something like Marvel, I mean, the NDAs and the contracts and the shush. I mean, I was on some stupid show that no one had ever heard of, and I tweeted out a photo of me and one of the co-stars who had not yet been announced, and they came down and me like, "Erin, you can't do that." I mean, these tweets don't just randomly occur. Let's be real here. Jeff Goldblum did not create that graphic on his own. Someone at Marvel created that graphic, and they were like, "Hey Jeff, wouldn't it be cute if you did this?" And then everybody approved it, and they had 25 people in legal sign off on it. That tweet did not happen randomly. Okay, that was definitely a calculated move on the part of the studio via Jeff Goldblum. And yes, he should be in it because Jeff Goldblum makes everything he does better. Of all of my husband's stupid t-shirts, my favorite stupid t-shirt that he wears is shirtless Jeff Goldblum. And no matter how faded Jeff Goldblum is, I make him wear it as often as possible because my dream is that we'll be in the grocery store and we will run into Jeff Goldblum while Tom is wearing shirtless Jeff Goldblum, and that'll be an awesome way to open a conversation. But yes, he's fantastic in everything he does. You know that my favorite is Earth Girls Are Easy. But he 100% should be in it, and I am just going to go on record and say that he is.
Now, I don't know if you know this. You mentioned your dream would be to bump into Jeff Goldblum at the grocery store.
You did?
No, that's your dream. Did you see?
Did you bump into him at the grocery store?
No, but did you see that he's got a show? It's like it's a comedy spoof show where I can't remember the name. Do you know the name of it, Kris?
He does a jazz show, I know, and that's all I want for my birthday.
Right.
When's your birthday? Let's go. I'll take you.
But no,
let's
it's like I can't remember if it's Comedy Central or something. If you guys know in the who are watching live, jump into the comments and leave it there. But he's basically, all right, we've got family coming over this week, and I'm getting out the barbecue, and he's going into his garage where the barbecue is like buried in the back, and he pulls it out, right, and I'm going to go to the grocery store. And then his show is Cooking with Jeff Goldblum. That's not the actual title. That's basically it. Then he goes to the grocery store and talks to the grocery store workers about what ingredients he needs to put together to make his masterpiece. And this is like a sketch thing he's got going on.
I need to find that grocery store.
I got to look it up too because I cannot remember. I'm just trying to look over here to see if you guys
Erin, let's go casually
remember
stalk him.
if you guys know what we're talking about. But anyway,
look that up.
Chris, let's ask you. Is Jeff Goldblum suggesting he's going to be in it, and do you think he should be in it?
I hope to God he is. I love him so much. We've talked about my unhealthy love for him on this show.
Yes.
Because shirtless Jeff Goldblum was an awakening for a young Chris. I went, hello, he's a doctor and he looks like that. Nerdy boys, yes. Also, he does everything, Erin. Maybe he's great at Photoshop. He can play jazz. He can act.
You're right.
He helps people find apartments. He can Photoshop. But I really hope he's in this. I really, really hope he does, because the Grandmaster was such a fun character. And Jeff Goldblum, like y'all were saying, just makes everything better. He's just a wonderful little cherry on top of a delicious bowl of ice cream we're already getting. Give it to us.
Well, I have a question. What is What If? A TV show coming out?
No. So What If?
Because he's playing Grandmaster in that episode 1 in 2021. What is that?
Okay, so What If is it's going to be an animated series on Disney Plus that, let's say, that just takes like wild ideas and just says, okay, this isn't one of the real episodes. I'm just giving you an example. What if Tony Stark became Captain America? Or what if, Bruce Banner didn't get hit with the gamma radiation that turned him into
So
Hulk?
it's an animated hypothetical Marvel
scenario.
Okay, and he's doing a voiceover on it.
Right,
as the Grandmaster.
Kevin Feige announced that most of the cast of the MCU will be returning to do their voices for it, and I think every episode will be a different story. A different what if story. So yeah, he's going to come back and do his voice, but that's
Thank you for that clarification.
There we go. Question is, guys, what do you think about this Jeff Goldblum tweet? Did seeing a shirtless Jeff Goldblum bring you into puberty and maturity? Do you think, like me, I think he's butter. He's better on everything, including popcorn. What do you think? Do you think he's actually teasing he's going to be in it, or do you think he was just having some fun? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys, with that down and out of the way, we're going to now take some live questions. But before we get to that, there are a bunch of other things going on in the world of movie news and entertainment that we don't have time to make big main topics. However, since you're watching the John Campea Show, we want to make sure you're caught up to date. So right now, fact checker Jonathan proudly presents to you today's installment of the Movie News Feed. Check it out.
First up, the criminal underworld of the mafia has always been dominated by men. You need only look at the likes of The Godfather, Goodfellas, and The Sopranos. Soon, the true story of one woman who worked for the mob will be told on the big screen. From Slash Film, Mob Girl is a new film in the works from the young Pope director Paolo Sorrentino that will adapt the life story of Arlene Brickman, a woman who became a mob girlfriend but then ended up getting in on the criminal action herself. And Jennifer Lawrence has been slated to star in the movie and produce it. Next up, in 2015, 70-year-old director George Miller delivered one of the greatest action films of all time with Mad Max Fury Road. Since that film came out, audiences have been wondering if Miller would ever return to that post-apocalyptic world for a sequel. From Cinema Blend, it turns out that the director has 2 more Mad Max sequels in his head. As he explained, there are 2 stories, both involving Mad Max and also a Furiosa story. We're still solving. We've got to play out the Warner's thing. It seems to be pretty clear that it's going to happen. That Warner's thing Miller is referring to is the lawsuit his production company, Kennedy Miller Mitchell, filed against Warner Brothers. It all stems from a $7 million bonus George Miller and the production company were to be owed should the film's final costs come under a certain amount. Next up, Catherine Hardwicke of the Twilight Saga is set to direct Heathen, a female-led Viking fantasy feature adapted from the story by Vault Comics. From ComingSoon.net, Heathen follows Adis, a young Viking warrior who comes out as queer in an age and culture of merciless patriarchy. Her ostracism leads her on a quest to right those cultural wrongs with Odin, the leader of the Viking gods. The first volume of the trade paperback of Heathen, which contains the first 4 issues, has gone to multiple printings. Young Adult Library Service Association selected the book for its 2018 Great Graphic Novels for Teens list. A new story arc began in June from the indie publisher. Next up, Hulu is developing a TV series adaptation of Douglas Adams' The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. From JoeBlow.com, the project is a product of ABC Signature, the cable streaming arm of ABC Studios. Often hailed by many as one of the single greatest contributions to sci-fi literature, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy began as a comedy radio series and rose to even greater heights as a beloved series of novels. The literary series has been translated into over 30 languages, making The Misadventures of Arthur Dent a cultural touchstone across the globe. And finally, Designated Survivor will not be returning for new seasons at Netflix. From Variety, Designated Survivor, which starred Kiefer Sutherland as a low-level cabinet secretary who becomes president of the United States, started out as an ABC drama series, but was canceled by the broadcaster after 2 seasons. It was announced last September that Netflix had revived the show for a third. Netflix will continue to carry all 3 seasons. And that will do it for today's installment of the Movie News Feed.
And now you are all caught up to date on everything going on. Special thanks to fact checker Jonathan for putting that together for us. All right, guys, with that all down, let's now move on to your live questions. And we're going to get things started here with where we at here. War Machine Rocks writes, better director, Guillermo del Toro or Tim Burton? Look, you're kind of asking the wrong guy. I think Guillermo del Toro by a mile. I'm actually not one of the world's biggest Tim Burton fans. He's got a couple of films I do like, but for me, I got to go with Guillermo del Toro. Andres Martinez writes, thoughts on the Batman versus Superman Martha scene? I think it's a misunderstood scene. I do. I think people misunderstand what's going on in Batman's head as that whole thing is going on. I agree, it came across as cheesy, but I think people misunderstand what he was going for. JB Bonifacio writes, a film historian on CNN's The Movies argued that brands are the new stardom now, and that no movie star has come close to how big Marvel is right now. Well, I mean, guys, I think there is some truth to that right now the IP or the brand is the more recognizable thing at this point than say individual movie stars. I still think movie stars are important because they give, in an audience's head, credibility to a movie as opposed to seeing a movie coming out where I don't know who anybody in that is. Because, my cousin, if they see a movie, I don't recognize anybody in this movie, not interested. I often argue that the age of the bankable movie star is done. There are no movie stars left anymore that if you put them in it, it guarantees the movie's going to be hit. That doesn't exist anymore. But you could make that argument that brands are. Erin, how would you see that?
I mean, I think, sure, depending on the brand, but I think Marvel goes even beyond being a brand in the fact that people like familiarity. That's what it is.
That's true.
And so the reason why people go, oh, I don't want to watch that movie that I don't know anybody's in, because when people go into the movies, they want to escape. They want fantasy, and certain people want to live vicariously. I mean, when I was growing up, I wanted to live vicariously through Rosalind Russell and through Marilyn Monroe, and so people want to go to the movies and they want to see people that they know that they can depend on, so that they're not let down at the end of it. Marvel has become that. People know I'm going to walk into a Marvel movie. These are the things that are going to happen. This is how it's going to make me feel, and I'm going to wait and pee in my pants at the end of it so that I can see whatever the button is after the credits roll. People want familiarity, and I think that that's one of the reasons why brands are becoming so big. But I don't think that one could say, oh, well, if you have a Pepsi can sitting in most of the shots, that's going to be more important than having, say, Leonardo DiCaprio. I don't think that's true.
I grew up wanting to live vicariously through Optimus Prime. Chris, how would you answer that?
I feel like there's still something to say about star power. I mean, that Starbucks cup definitely stole the scene in Game of Thrones, so maybe that product placement is taking over. But I think people, in addition to going to a Marvel movie, just like Erin was saying, I think you nailed it on the head with, like, you've got an expectation. I think people also still go to movies to see certain actors. And there's also a reason why those kind of trashy magazines that are all about celebrities sell really, really well still. People are super invested in that actor and that performer, and they want to know more about them and support their work and learn about their lifestyle. A lot of people have a connection to performers, and they think they know them really well. And I think that has a bit more influence than an actual brand does at the end of the day.
All right, let's move on here. Next one. JB Bonifacio writes, also the Jane Foster Thor logo graphic is fire. Yeah, so on the thumbnail today, Ray, first of all, Ray always does such a good job with our graphics. He really does a wonderful job putting these together, and I love that one of Natalie Portman as female Thor. That does look great. All right, next up, Alvin Elmore writes, John, you are the movie god prophet. Can you ask them to give us a hard R live action remake of Heavy Metal with all of the filthy? I would love that. I'll be honest with you, Alvin. While I certainly have wonderful memories as a kid watching a movie my parents didn't think would be dirty, and so they left me alone in the room to watch it, as I'm sure many people do. I don't know that such a movie would actually get any traction today. I really don't. I don't think that that's a movie that would get any traction. I don't think there would be a lot of people interested in it, to be honest with you. Now, some of you are screaming at your monitors, I would be interested. Okay, great. But I don't think there would be a lot of us. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, Erin, do you think that if they redid a live action remake of Heavy Metal or something like that, Hard R, is that something that would appeal to a lot of people?
I'm just gonna out myself here. I don't know what Heavy Metal.
Well, I don't. I think there's probably a bunch of people who don't.
Yeah. So I'm that person that's not yelling at the screen, going, "I would watch that." I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what that is. So
Chris.
I'm vaguely familiar with Heavy Metal, and I wouldn't watch it.
Yeah,
but that's just
so I
not.
think Alvin,
I go on smooth jazz cruises, guys. I'm so lame.
Smooth jazz cruises. So Alvin, I think it's be you and me and a couple of other people in the theater eating our popcorn. So I just don't know if they would make that happen, dude. All right, next up, where are we at here? Shama writes, new art special for you in your last tweet replies. I'll take a look for that, Shama. Thank you for that. Nathan Oswald writes, my favorite line from Back to the Future, if my calculations are correct, when this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're going to see some serious shit. First of all, you know what? It still amazes me that people ask me, hey, John, what do you think of Back to the Future? It's like, it's Back to the Future. What do you think I think of it? It's amazing, one of the all-time classics. And a lot of people don't like it. I think they're going to reboot it. I think they're going to do a remake of Back to the Future. And I'm going to go as far, well, obviously everything's going to be remade at some point. I think within the next 5 years. I think within the next 5 years, they're going to do another Back to the Future. Now, I know some of the stakeholders, including producers and directors, have said, never while I'm still alive. I think there's been some softening on that. I'll be honest. I think there's been a little bit of softening on that. Again, I'm not claiming any insider information here. Fan speculation. I think we're going to get one within 5 years. Nathan follows up with, how can Mjolnir be in Thor 4? It was destroyed in Ragnarok, and then in Endgame, it was returned to the Dark World / Ragnarok timeline because time travel and multiverse. This is one of the reasons why, to me, time travel and multiverse garbage is the bottom of the barrel, laziest of lazy writing. Because you don't have to worry about the consequences of anything else. It doesn't matter what happened in something else. We can do whatever we want now. And that's why I call it lazy. You don't have to work to figure out strong narrative reasons why something can come to be and accept when something can't come to be. Doesn't matter. Time travel, multiverse. Just make it happen. I think that's how they're going to do it, and unfortunately, it makes me sad. Nathan also writes, could Blade be a Disney Plus movie? Possible. It's possible, but I really do think they're going feature film. Don't know what to put. Writes, Ashley has good taste in turntables. Erin likes Bill Burr. John, you get the most talented and intelligent women on your show. Kudos. You and Rob rock as well. So I you know what? I don't know much of Bill Burr. I've never listened to a Bill Burr stand-up comedy. I've seen him in tons of interviews. And I was talking to people and telling them about that Jon Favreau chef show, which I don't know if you guys have seen that yet.
It's so good.
It's so good. But Bill Burr is actually on one of the episodes in the kitchen as they're cooking something. It's really good. Like, why is Bill Burr like somebody you and Tom like so much?
You know what? He's just crass enough. One of our favorite sketches is when he said that he got a lot of fire for this joke that he does about veterans, because he was talking about, he said, yeah, the guy that flies the fighter jet, he's a hero. But what about the guy that's standing, there doing Warrior 2, going, the war is that way. The war, is that guy a hero? Really? Do I have to give up my seat on an airplane for that guy? And it's just, he says stuff that it's crass, but it's also like, yeah, but I get it. And I don't know. There's something about him. You feel like you're talking to your cousin who you kind of go, ooh, should you really be saying that? But it's still funny.
All right, next one up. Captain Confidence Entertainment writes, viewers write in how you help them in dark times, inspire creation, and challenge negative boo birds thinking. You continue Mr. Rogers' work, Mr. Campea and Robert Knight. Oh, thank you for that,
beautiful.
Man. It's always really nice when somebody just wants to write in and say something nice. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that very, very much. You actually have no idea how much, so thank you, man. Last time I'll be compared to Mr. Rogers, other than maybe my fashion sense, in a long time. Nathan Oswald writes, we were told to comb the desert, so we were combing it.
Spaceballs!
Shit! Oh my God.
I love that movie so much.
I mean, I always forget the name, even though it's one of my all-time favorites. The spoof movie with Val Kilmer. It's one of the original great ones. Latrine! I always forget the name of it. It's way old, but it's one of the great ones of all time.
Look that up.
Airplane, Hot Shots Part 2. Mm-hmm. But I think I gotta say...
Naked Gun,
Naked Gun, 2.5. I honestly think Spaceballs might be my favorite of all time.
Yeah.
Obviously, I have a Star Wars slant in that, but that scene when they're combing through the desert... when he goes, "We ain't found shit." I just die every time I see that.
And how can you not love Pizza the Hut?
Oh my God.
With the pepperoni slices
Just
like falling in his
dripping
mouth, and they're
off.
just all so grossed out by how disgusting he is. But you gotta kind of love him.
Then pizza will send out for you. It's one of the great lines. It's awesome. Thank you. Any excuse to give me to think about Spaceballs is awesome. War Machine Rocks writes, what do you think about the Queer Eye show? You know what? Here's the thing. I actually don't think it's all that great. But, sorry, shock. I don't think it's all that great, to be honest with you. My wife is obsessed with that show, right? Like, I'm sorry, but here's my problem with the Queer Eye show. The concept is great. It's a great concept. But I watch a lot of these other, home makeover shows. I'm an HGTV guy. I admit I'm a closet HGTV guy. I love that stuff. Where they'll actually come in and like totally change a person's home or totally change this and blah, blah, blah. I watch Queer Eye as like, they basically spend 48 hours with these people, and usually their home transformation is they just tidy it up and maybe put a coat of paint on something, and they give a dude a new hairdo. It's like, okay. I mean, the concept is so good. I just wish, here's what I do. Queer Eye would be a much more enjoyable show to me if they expanded the scope of it. If they say had the guys spend 8 days with this person that they're making over and actually put in some real work on their home and do something more than that, because at the end of them, like my wife, Anne, at the end of every one of these episodes, she's a crying mess. But I think I find something artificial about it. It's like, you spent 48 hours with the guy. Like, if you at least spent maybe a week with them, and I would hear these testimonials at the end about, this changed my life, I would probably buy it a little bit more. But they essentially just had coffee with the guy. So, I don't know. I think it's a great concept. I just wish they would expand the scope of it. I do have to admit, though, I think the guys on it are really funny. I think the guy, and one of them's a Canadian kid, so you got to love. I think the chef one,
Anthony.
Isn't the chef one? Yeah,
Anthony's Canadian.
Good Canadian kid. So there you go, hiking all that.
But do you feel like also that
By the way,
maybe...
I'm feeling the judgment coming.
No,
off
there's
of
no
each of you
judgment
right
at
now.
all.
It's just
I'm
me.
feeling it.
It's just
I
me.
will admit that I have not watched the new iteration of the show. I feel like when the show first came out,
And I never saw the first iteration.
I
I've
did.
only seen the new
The
one.
first one was really great because you actually did. Because also, let's remember when the first one came out, I think it maybe was at the time of Will and Grace. It wasn't like where we had homosexual men, running up to straight men being like, hey, let me give you a makeup. Like, that was very much not happening. It was a time that I think that people were just kind of getting familiar and okay, like, a lot of heterosexual men who claimed to not know any gay men, like they were seeing it on television and going, oh, okay, yeah, I see how they could help that guy, clean himself up, make him more presentable, whatever. I feel like now we're just in a different time, and with the development of the metrosexual, I just don't really know if we need this show. I feel like if you're a guy and you don't know that you're supposed to get a haircut and supposed to like tidy up your room. John, I've been to your house, John. You have a fresh haircut, John.
I am the ultimate candidate for a guy to be on Queer Eye.
No,
I have no.
My
fashion
husband
sense.
is. My husband wears jeans sweatpants. They're literally sweatpants that are so loose that they're jeans, but they're so loose that they look like sweatpants. And I loathe the fact that he wears them, and he wears them every single day.
Yeah,
I don't think they've been washed in 10 years.
I need a lot of help. But you know what? I will admit this. I just thought of one episode, though. And it was one of the episodes that had Anne. Well, every episode has Anne going, she's crying her eyes out.
Maybe I need to watch this.
But there was this one episode, I got to say, that I really did like. And it was, I can't remember the specifics, but they go, because the way the show works is a friend nominates a person for a bit of a makeover. And then they go to their town and do the makeover for them. Anyway, they go to some southern town, like some southern redneck town, right? And they see the guy who's the subject. You think, this dude does not hang out for beers with a lot of gay men. This guy does not do this, right? But what I loved about the episode was, they're going to set up a narrative where the redneck guy's going, man, I didn't know. I looked at these guys all wrong before. I didn't appreciate. I had too many stereotypes in my head. Blah blah. And they did do that in the show, but they also had the guys at the end going, you know what? We came down here with just as many negative stereotypes in our heads about what he would be like, and we're realizing we were wrong. And you got both of them talking about, oh my God, like we all had these stereotypes about each other, and then we meet each other and we actually hang out together. It's beautiful. And I got to admit, I might have got a little bit choked up watching that episode. I thought, because there was something beautiful about humanity in that, where everybody was saying we had preconceptions about each other. And I've never really seen anybody do something like that. Anyway, we're spending way too much time on this topic. We got to keep going.
Who knew that the John Campea Show today would be all about Queer Eye for the Straight Guy?
I don't even like Queer Eye all that much, and we're sitting here and talking about, okay, let's move on here. Nathan Oswald writes, Walter Payton would have turned 65 today. You know what the stunning thing about that is? I think of Walter Payton as being around in the 1800s. Like, he would have turned 65. I would have thought he turned 95 today, to be honest with you. It's just so sad that he died so young. Dim705 writes, what's going to be more taxing for Feige, Disney Plus or the actual theatrical movies? I still think the movies. I think there's going to be a lot of leeway still. I think people's expectations going into Disney Plus shows, as much as they're trying to hype them up, are still going to be thinking television level. And so I think there's still a greater bit of stress for Kevin Feige about the theatrically released films. But once he starts putting out these Disney Plus shows and they start hitting really high quality, then expectations are going to rise and they're going to be equally daunting for him. ZMG really writes, hey, Erin, I know you're hush hush, but I hope you're in Crisis. So Crisis, for those of you who don't know, every year the Arrowverse does a massive crossover event where they bring all their shows together and they do a 2 or 3 or 4 episode massive crossover, one big thing story. This year, of course, is Crisis. And it's going to be the final stuff for, Arrow is going to be his final thing. So you got Arrow cast is going to be in it. Flash cast is going to be in it. We're going to have Legends of Tomorrow. You're going to have the Supergirl cast in it. You're going to have the Batwoman cast in it. So Erin, even if you are allowed or not allowed to say, do you know if you're going to be in the Crisis thing this year, having been in Flash this year? Oh, and she's pleading the fifth.
Hashtag
and she's pleading
bring
the
back
fifth.
blocked.
She's pleading the fifth. The question has been blocked.
Oh, sorry, I was drinking. I missed that.
The question has been blocked. Get it? I said blocked. Okay, don't know what to put writes. Oh, and Kris is a gift too. Sorry, noticed after, and he sends little flowers emojis.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, I just want to point out nobody sends me flower emojis. Just wanted to point that out. Maybe the Queer Eye guys would. I don't know. Superman Steve writes, John, I simply wanted to say you're the man. I hope I get to meet you one day in person. Oh, thank you so much for that, Superman Steve. I appreciate that. If you ever do bump into me, make sure you say hello, man. Matthew Grant writes, just started Spartacus. Had no idea Lucy Lawless was in it. I'm very pleased. I gotta love the over-the-top CG blood splats. Erin, you are beautiful.
Thank you.
And honestly, seriously, like, I'm very open about this. Like, Erin is my friend, and I started watching it because she's in it, and I thought the first few episodes were horrible, and I only kept watching it because Erin was in it, and then it legit became probably my third all-time favorite television show in history. I love Spartacus, and Erin, you were amazing in that. I loved you in that. You and Andy had such a great chemistry.
We did,
in that show together, and I thought it was
I think after episode 4, it really starts finding its footing. And again, I'll go back to what I've said before, which is when you don't have a chance to shoot a pilot and then take some time away, rework what didn't work. I mean, we went straight into the series, and so by the time the dailies come back and then the team is able to figure out, oh, okay, maybe there's a little too much blood splatter, maybe there's a little too much. So by the time we get to episode 4, the show really finds its footing, and I think from then on, I mean, Stephen Estonite did a phenomenal job, and
he really did.
He was the one who made that show what it is. And of course, Andy, the show would not have been what it was without Andy.
He was sorely missed after he passed as well. Ben Burnside writes, "Hey guys, I have watched the Top Gun 2 trailer 15 times. What do you think about Maverick not being promoted and Tom Cruise flying effing jets?" Well, look, I'll tell you the unpopular opinion. I didn't actually even think the Top Gun 2 trailer was all that good. It was just amazing to see that it exists. You know what I mean? It's like, really, there's not much to the trailer other than he's flying a plane and some dialogue going on between some admiral and he's still captain and whatever. So, I mean, I don't know. It seems weird that he would still be a captain at that age. because it's like 30 years later now,
Yeah.
something like that. So I'm curious. I'm not going to speculate as to what brought that on, though, because there's a billion different possible explanations. Again, I didn't think the trailer was all that great, but it didn't need to be all that great. This is a movie that doesn't come out for almost a year. It was just announcing to the world that it's coming, and that was enough for me. Now, I don't know if either of you guys had a chance to see that Top Gun 2 trailer. What do you guys think about it?
I mean, I don't really know what the story is, but you don't need to know what the story is right now. Yeah. It seemed like there were a lot of images of Tom Cruise riding on a motorcycle again. I think I'm surprised that there weren't more images of half-naked guys playing beach volleyball. I felt like they took like all the classic parts that people remembered from the original Top Gun and said, just put that in the new trailer and just make Tom Cruise older. So I didn't really get it.
Did you like it, Kris?
It's, I've said it before. It's not a movie that was made for me. It's not something that I'm probably going to really go see with gusto. I'm going to see it so I know about it. But all I kept thinking was, Maverick, you're not a bad boy Maverick. You're just probably really bad at your job.
And I'll be honest. Look, I'll say this too. I once said, not terribly long ago, that I thought Top Gun 2 was coming 10 years too late. Oh, let's be honest, 20 years too late.
Yeah.
And I really didn't know if there's going to be much interest. I got to say, the buzz around it now is huge. Like the response that it got, not only at Comic-Con, but also online afterwards, has been massive. So I think I underestimated just how much of a passion there still was to see another Top Gun. Because I think a lot of us grew up. That was, for a lot of people, sure, that's probably one of the first big movies they saw. And I still remember it really fondly. So
sure. Well, kudos to Tom Cruise also for, keeping it going, man. The guy must be 85 years old now.
I believe so.
No, but he is. Let's be honest. For him to continue to have such a strong career as an action hero, and to still look as good as he does, it's pretty impressive.
No, it's not just look as good as he does. He's looking better and better all the time. Like, he's doing more shirtless scenes now than he did when he was in his early 30s. And by the way, he's just 3 years shy of 60.
Wow.
He's 57. And he looks better today than most guys in their 40s.
How old is Harrison Ford?
Harrison Ford is 70 something.
Oh, okay.
Hold on a second.
Okay, then that's not a fair comparison. Sorry, Harrison.
No, that's
love you, Harry.
But Harrison Ford is 20 years older than Tom Cruise.
Okay, well then never mind. Harrison Ford looks great for his age.
77, and Harrison Ford looks awesome for his age. But yeah, we've been talking about it a lot the last couple of years. I just feel like Tom Cruise, he is at the height of his action film powers at the age of mid-50s, which is kind of crazy. And
it's impressive.
The best thing about him is this. He's a good enough pure thespian. He's a good enough pure actor that even when he's not doing the action films, he's got an A-list career for another 20 years.
Absolutely.
After this, which is the incredible thing. It's good to be Tom Cruise. All right, next up, Matthew Grant writes, I think Portman is a fantastic actress. I agree. I think she and Waititi could make this work wonders. I am looking forward to seeing a powerful Natalie just having fun and cutting loose on screen. And we'll just follow up in the second part there. He says, also, by the way, to point this issue out, when Jane is Thor in the comics, Thor also loses the Thor name and is just called Odin's son. Yeah, we talked about that on the show the other day. Love you guys. Which is something that I think is absolutely stupid. Like, if I have Robert sit in this chair and host the show for me, for, say, I go on vacation, I have Rob host the show, he doesn't become John and I don't lose my name. I don't suddenly become Eddie. It's a dumb concept. Look. Natalie Portman's acting prowess is not in question here. This girl is remarkable. Whether she's playing, the First Lady of the United States, whether she's playing a ballerina with serious mental issues, whether she's, the girlfriend of the God of Thunder, it don't matter. Natalie Portman's awesome. She's awesome in everything. I just don't like the story right now. From what I'm hearing. That's all. That's the point. If anybody's going to make this work, it's Taika Waititi and Natalie Portman. For sure. But I just have my doubts about it. Anyway, Erin, you look at an actress like Natalie Portman, from everything from huge, big blockbusters, Star Wars films and everything, to indie art house films and everything in between. What's your overall impression of Natalie Portman?
I love Natalie Portman. I think she's phenomenal. She's incredibly talented. And if you have not seen if you have not seen her in SNL when she does the rap video about the fan guys all wanting to know when she's going to turn 18 and things like that, and like who was the best, if you could give one actor a smooch, who would it be? And she like kicks the guy over. She's very, very entertaining in everything that she does. My only question was, and I don't know anything about the Thor comic books as far as the female Thor is concerned, but does size matter? Is that a thing? Is that a conversation? I mean, when I think of like Lady Thor, I think
Somebody
Zoe Bell.
who just tuned in this second and heard Erin going, does size matter? Is that a question?
Does size matter? That's going to be a meme.
Yeah, that's the new meme. Well, look, I think when you're talking about a character like a Thor, where Chris Hemsworth's a big guy.
Yeah.
Guys his size can't knock over buildings with a punch. There's a mystical element to that, right?
Sure.
And when you take that into consideration, really then does size matter?
Okay, well then if that's the case, then why does Chris Hemsworth need to be Thor? Why couldn't it have been I don't know, the guy who played Ant-Man.
Paul Rudd.
Paul Rudd.
Why couldn't Paul Rudd have been Thor then?
Well, I think
he's not worthy of the hammer.
Yeah, well, he is the Norse god, and
with the first request.
Google thought we were talking to it.
Shut up, Google.
Google is always listening. Well, I mean, the way Thor is always portrayed in the comic books is this big, and he, amongst Asgardians,
so that's what my question.
He is the beefiest of all the Asgardians.
In the comic books, is the female Thor portrayed also as a big,
for a female frame? Yeah, that's
yes
why
and
Natalie
no.
Portman said in an Instagram post. I can't remember if it was Instagram or Twitter, but she put in this post, this picture of herself, and she said, "Here's your before picture until after I get jacked."
Okay.
So clearly,
I'm excited to see how because she definitely commits herself. I mean, when she did
Oh, yeah.
a lot of training for Black Swan, and obviously she's not going to become a big beefy weightlifter look, but I'm really excited to see how Natalie Portman, with her commitment to her craft, will transform herself for this role. I'm excited. I think she's brilliant in everything that she does. I will 100% support this and see it. I'm certainly more supportive of Natalie Portman as female Thor than I was of Gal Gadot being Wonder Woman in the beginning. I will say that.
What do you think, Chris?
What's interesting too about the physicality here is if they'll commit to the story that has Jane become Thor.
Right, because there's a cancer. She's
battling breast cancer, and
Oh.
each time she becomes Thor, it slowly and like it kills her. It's just adding to her dying, and so it's her constantly, selflessly putting her own life, her own battle aside to take up the mantle. So I feel like that's probably not the route Taika Waititi's going to go, because Love and Thunder
But
sounds like
if
a
they
fun buddy
did-
romp.
Oh,
If
I
they
didn't know
did-
there was a
go
breast
that way,
cancer
though.
element.
It's a
didn't.
really interesting story, but then you've got the duality of that magical girl transformation into Thor versus, when she's suffering and struggling.
But remember, too, Thor Ragnarok, as much as when we think of Thor Ragnarok as this funny, it is by far, content-wise, other than Infinity War and Endgame, it's the darkest of all the MCU films. Thor loses Mjolnir. Thor loses his eye. His homeworld of Asgard gets destroyed.
His father
Odin
dies.
dies. I mean, there's so much dark, heavy stuff that Taika Waititi knows how to combine dark, heavy stuff while also making it fun and light and looking at it from a point of view that you just laugh at everything. And that could be something they do. I would be, let's put this, I'll be really impressed with Taika Waititi and Kevin Feige if they actually brought, I think you're right, Chris. I don't think they're going to bring that into this movie, but oh my God, they've got giant balls if they do, because that would be a gutsy thing to do. And I'd be really down for seeing that. All right, we got to keep moving here. Next up comes to us from S. Beam, who writes, Lady Hawk, Blind Fury, first two I remember of Rutger Hauer. Yeah, Lady Hawk is just the one for me. And do you guys remember, I don't even know if you guys saw Lady Hawk, or it might be before your time, but it had, with Matthew Broderick and everything, it had this glorious, cheesy 80s techno synth soundtrack. So you'd be in like this medieval kind of era sort of fantasy, and all of a sudden,
As only the 80s could do.
oh my God, it was just so good. Matthew Grant writes, by the way, raise Jane Thor graphic should be a poster. It really should. He did a great job on that. Thanks for. I'm sure Ray will love hearing that, Matthew. Kevin Lewis writes, if Grandmaster and Arena in Thor 4 over under 33%, somebody fights Beta Ray Bill. He had a bust of his head in T3 in Thor 3. Yeah, there was a Beta Ray Bill bust in there. And I do think there's a chance we're going to see Beta Ray Bill. I go back and forth as to how, like, I don't think it's likely. So I wouldn't say over 50%. Like, that's the likely line, 50%. But over 33, I go back and forth on this. Today, I'm going to say over 33%. I don't know if we're going to see him in the arena or if we're going to see him in some other, he'll be introduced some other way. But I'm growing more and more into the thought that we just may see Beta Ray Bill in this. Give Luigi a Ring writes, hey guys, I love the Gollum, the Goldblum. I loved the Goldblum in Ragnarok. I'd like to see him interact with the Collector. We didn't see him die in Infinity War, so possible. Yeah, that's true. We didn't see Benicio del Toro die as the Collector. We assume that Thanos got there, killed him and everybody else, but maybe he wasn't there. So maybe the Collector is still alive. And if so, maybe at some point we're going to see. Now, I don't know if we're going to see Grandmaster and Collector in Thor Love and Thunder. That seems like a bit of a stretch, but I would love to see these guys interact as well. Mr. 47 writes, have you seen the 2013 film Locke? Oh, yes, I have. We talk about it on the show all the time, Mr. Locke with Tom Hardy. Ironically enough, Tom Holland's voice was also in the film playing one of his kids. Venom 2. I did not realize that Tom Holland did one of the voices like on the phone with. I didn't realize that. Did you guys see Locke? I don't know. No, a lot of people didn't. Like it was a small release, but it's what if you want to see just how good of an actor Tom Hardy can be, watch Locke. It's phenomenal. I mean, everybody already thinks he's a great actor, but still, I had no idea, Mister, that Tom Holland did one of the voices. Mister follows up with, although stories focused on our favorite non-powered Avengers like Widow, Falcon, Hawkeye, etc., might be unnecessary, the MCU has to stay grounded somehow. See, I disagree with you, Mister. I don't know that the only way to make something feel grounded. For instance, I thought Shazam felt very grounded. They found a way to bring the fantastic into the mundane, and I'm always talking about that in superhero movies. I love it when it's the fantastical within the mundane. And I mean, Shazam is as fantastical as it gets. Mystic wizards in caves, giant lightning bolt on his chest, all the powers of Superman and more and blah, blah, blah. And yet it felt really grounded, a foster home and all this kind of stuff. I don't think the ability to keep it grounded relies on whether or not your character has superpowers. I don't think that, because, I mean, Batman felt Christopher Nolan's Batman felt very grounded, but Schumacher's Batman did not, right? And that's a character with no superpowers. I don't know. How would you address that, Erin? How would you respond to that?
When I think of a film being grounded, I think, does its story resonate with what people are going through? I mean, when we saw Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, that was an animated film, but the story of the struggles that this child is going through are very real and incredibly relatable, and that's real. And so I felt like even an animated film where a boy is flying through the air on a spider web, that felt very grounded to me, because I could relate to that. I could relate to those feelings of not feeling like I was good enough, not feeling like I could be the thing that people wanted me to be. I think everybody can feel that sometimes. So yeah, I totally agree with you, John. Regardless of what superpowers someone has or does not have, that does not determine for me whether or not the film is grounded. It's whether or not I can relate to the feelings that those characters are going through. A
great example of that, Avengers Infinity War, I still think it's the greatest scene ever in the history of the MCU. Thor sitting in the ship, talking to Rocket Raccoon, talking about everything that he's lost. And, and then Rocket saying to him, like, well, what if you're wrong? He goes, well, then what do I got left to lose? I mean, there's something about that, of seeing these characters struggling with loss and despair. And I mean, as well, it's all the, anyway, Kat, I keep wanting to call you Kat. Kat,
okay. People started calling me Kit Kat Bar in the chat.
So what happened on the show the other day, we were talking about a story about Kat Dennings.
Oh, okay.
And then when I threw it over to Kris, we're talking about Kat Dennings. I said Kat. So now I just continually call her Kat. Anyway,
Logan's adopted it. He keeps texting me and he's like, "Love you, Kat." So I mean, and then I'll finally get all of my social media that I want. Cat Car. Someone look it up for me. See if I can get those handles.
Oh, yeah, that would work. What do you think about that? Can it be grounded if you have characters with magnificent powers?
Absolutely. I have so many friends who've talked to me about how they've been able to identify with the Hulk because it has connected with them about mental health issues, about, bouts of mania or dealing with anxiety or things like that. I've had people talk to me after Infinity War and Endgame talking about how Thor's bout with depression was really, really significant for them, and they really, really connected with that. And that's a mystical Nordic god that they went and saw and they went, oh my gosh, that's me. Or, kids being able to connect with Drax for his inability to communicate properly somehow. I think you can absolutely have those stories. Gosh, in comics, John Jones is constantly dealing with the loss of his child.
Yeah.
That's something so human that a Martian's dealing with. There are so many ways to take something mystical and magical and find a place that we all can connect to it. And if we didn't, then we wouldn't be so invested in these stories.
True.
What's funny to me, too, is during Endgame, of course, we got Lebowski Thor in Endgame. So many guys, I mean, it was the same joke, but it was funny every time. So many guys would then write to me and say, finally, I can cosplay as Thor. It's like, well, there you go. So thank you, Chris Hemsworth, for becoming more relatable with all of us. All right. Stubble McShave writes, keep one, lose one. Science fiction spoof, Galaxy Quest or Spaceballs? Well, these aren't the same thing. Galaxy Quest isn't a spoof movie. There's definitely an homage and a bit of a parody, but it's not a spoof movie like Spaceballs is. These are both wonderful films. I love Galaxy Quest. It's one of my favorites. I love that movie. But if I had to keep one and lose one, I ain't losing Spaceballs. So there's that. Nathan Oswald follows up, writes, what's the difference between Gaffer and Best Boy? Honestly, I have no idea.
Okay.
I don't know. Do you know, Erin?
I do know. Oh my gosh, and I'm blanking.
There's a joke in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang that it just means the best boy somebody's nephew.
Yeah.
No, okay. You know what? Give me a minute. Let me look it up because I don't want to say the wrong thing. And then every time I walk onto a set, evereverone throws daggers at me.
Honestly, I don't know.
It has to do with lighting, and I believe that the best boy is part of the camera crew, and I believe that
Gaffer
is more lighting.
Yeah, I knew Gaffer was more at the lighting. So
yeah, Gaffer is more lighting, and the best boy, I believe, is part of the camera crew.
All right.
This is where the Google machine should have kicked in.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
what happened.
Google.
Mr. 47 writes, also, Cavill wanted to appear in Shazam at the end, but shooting time restrictions didn't allow it to happen, a.k.a. no time to CG out his mustache again. Yeah, I've heard that, I don't buy that for a second. I don't buy that for one single second, because I've heard the same thing, too. There is no way. I mean, with the amount, look, we're not talking about Henry Cavill was needed for 3 weeks on the set of Shazam. We are literally talking about they needed an afternoon for him to show up, just put on the costume, walk into camera, that's it, and done. Get back on the plane, fly back to where you need to be. If they really wanted to make this happen, there were ways to make it happen. I don't buy this whole BS about, oh, he didn't have 2 hours to walk onto camera and then turn around and walk out. They could have made it happen. They totally could have made it happen. So I don't buy that. I mean, you're hearing it, and I heard the same thing, but I don't buy that, not for a minute. All right.
I have the answer.
What's that?
Yay.
Oh, Best Buy and
yeah,
Best
and I
Buy.
was totally wrong. Okay, in a film crew, there are two kinds of Best Boy. Best Boy Electric and Best Boy Grip. There's also Best Girl, by the way, if the person is female. They are the assistants to the department heads. The gaffer, who is in charge of the electricals, has a Best Boy Electrical, and the key grip, who is in charge of lighting and rigging, who has a Best Boy or Best Girl grip. So I apologize.
So one's actually ranked higher than the other.
Well, the best boy or best girl is the assistant to the department head. So there's the gaffer, which is in charge of the electric, and then the key grip, which is in charge of the lighting and the rigging. And so each of those department heads has an assistant, and the assistant is the best boy or girl.
All right.
So the best boy or girl is not involved in the camera department at all. I apologize.
Thank you very much for looking that up. Let's see here. Dave Atkins writes, epic shout out to Kris. Love your passion and enthusiasm on the show. You're an angel. Also, congrats on losing your earthquake virginity.
Thanks. You always remember your first. It was special.
And yours was on camera.
Yeah. It was so great to walk into a party and have everyone show me my own footage.
Yep.
Again, as somebody just tuned in, you always remember it first, and yours was on camera. There's so many directions to go with that. All right, Dave Atkins follows up, writes, theory on vampires in the MCU. Have time to bide their numbers since the snap, seeing as it wouldn't affect them as they are already dead. Maybe. I mean, I don't know how that explains the lack of any exposure to their existence in the MCU so far. Again, I don't think there's anything tricky about the possibility of introducing vampires. Because in a lot of vampire movies, the world doesn't know or believe that vampires exist, right? In a lot of vampire movies and shows. Some of them they do, but a lot of them they don't. So to say that people in the MCU, people who live in the universe of the MCU, the average person in the world, don't know about vampires and don't talk about vampires, that's really not all that surprising. Like in Supernatural, the rest of the world doesn't know that these monsters exist, even though they're everywhere. So I don't think there's that much of a stretch, and I don't know that. It's an interesting concept that vampires don't dust because technically they're not alive. I think Thanos would probably just, any existing creatures would probably just, I think they would have been subjected to the snap, regardless of how technically we try to work around that. But even then, I don't think an explanation is necessary. You know what I'm saying, Dave? Okay. David Tapia writes, The Art of Self-Defense is my 2019 new favorite comedy. You know what's funny, David? We've been having a few people writing in the last couple of days about that, saying that some people are saying it's their favorite movie of the year now. Some people, like you, were saying it's your new favorite comedy. Again, I started getting invited to press screenings of this 6 months ago. And I never went because I just don't go to press screenings anymore. But I got this thing on my radar now, especially with a lot of you guys telling me that you're watching it and loving it. So I got to check this thing out. Have either of you guys had a chance to see Art of Self-Defense yet?
No, but I'm going to now.
The trailers look so interesting.
They do look really good. And yeah. All right. Kevin Lewis writes, love My Giant Life on TLCU. I really don't watch much television, so I've certainly never even heard of that. Have you guys ever heard of that?
I'm not a TLC viewer.
I definitely do not watch anything on TLC.
Yeah, so there you go. Haven't heard of it, Kevin.
I'm not a big fan.
I'm not saying it's not good. I'm just saying I haven't watched it. Grandmaster writes, are there any bad Canadian kids? Just wondering. Not really. Usually it's more of a case like a Justin Bieber where they come down to the States and get corrupted down here. That's
America's like your Romspringer. You guys just get so screwed up out here.
My favorite I've told this story before, but it's true. It was right before Canada and the US had a gold medal hockey game against each other. And I think one of the teams, I think it was one of the American players, I can't remember exactly who did it, but I think it was one of the American players, messaged out, loser has to keep Bieber. And one of the Canadian guys responded, you broke him, you keep him. Which I just thought that was kind of funny. But nope, they're all good Canadian kids. For them, no, there are some bad ones for sure. All right, Darth Impact writes, I know it's still at least 3 years away, so I'm gonna keep the odds low. Over under 10% Moon Knight will be in the new Blade movie. I really don't think so. I think if they ever do Moon Knight, it ain't gonna be introducing him in another character where that's just being introduced in their first movie. You know, you don't introduce Black Panther in the first Ant-Man movie. You introduce Black Panther in Civil War, where there's a bunch of other big ones. You don't introduce, Spider-Man in the Black Widow movie. You introduce Spider-Man in Civil War. If you're going to introduce new characters, you don't do them in another character's first movie, I don't think. So I think if they're going to introduce Moon Knight in anything at all, it'll probably be with something a little bit bigger, or just in his own movie right out of the gate, I think. CJ Dunn writes, Erin, you named your tatas, for lack of a better word, Ripley and Sarah. You amaze me with your awesomeness. Keep rocking on. So, yeah, I was shocked because I didn't even know about this until we heard about it on the show the other day, that your well-documented battle with breast cancer and stuff like that, and you actually tattooed Sarah and Ripley on yourself to give them names, which I thought was like one of the most remarkable things I've ever heard. Like,
You
that
know
was
what?
awesome.
These girls have been through a lot, and so I said when I get through my double mastectomy and I have all of my reconstruction surgeries, plural, finished, I'm getting Warrior tattooed on my arm, and I'm going to be naming them Ripley and Sarah for the two most badass women that I can think of.
I think that's awesome. I just actually used that little filter between your brain and your mouth.
Oh,
I'm proud of
good,
myself
John.
right now.
That's good.
I'm proud of myself. Okay, let's see. Where are we at? CJ Dunn, right? No, that was CJ. K Major writes, dude, your training montage from yesterday's companion video was missing music. What's your song of choice when running? Good on you. Get your sweat on. Okay, so what K Major is talking about, you guys know, we often don't have time to get through all the live questions that get sent in, so every day I do a companion video. Well, I got to get in my 5 miles a day. And I sometimes find it difficult with the amount of stuff I have to do every day to get in my 5 miles and do all the work I got to do. So I had this idea, hey, why don't I just do the companion video from my treadmill? So I did it from my treadmill yesterday, and it actually worked. So I think I'm going to do it again today, and we're going to just call it, companion video or walk and talk. We'll call it walk and talk, right? Why not? So I can, get in my 5 miles and
You run 5 miles a day?
Oh, no. I don't.
So I've got this double chin because I'm not doing that.
No. I do
doing
not
that.
run. Let's be clear. I do not run 5 miles a day.
But you walk 5 miles a day.
Yeah, I have to get
That's
a minimum
great.
5 miles a day. So
Wait, are you doing a home birth? That's exactly what you're supposed to do. I'm kidding. Like, but that's because a friend of mine who was planning on doing a home birth, she said the thing you're supposed to do to prepare for a home birth is walk 5 miles a day. And you're the only other person that I've ever that said. But that's a good
But that's
rule.
what they say. They say generally, if people should try to get 5 miles a day. That generally
Wow.
breaks down to, because you hear people saying all the time, got to get my steps in. Generally speaking, they say
10,000 steps.
10,000 steps, which is about equivalent to 5 miles.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
So I mean, there's a lot of days I struggle to find time to get in those 5 miles. So
I'm glad you do.
That's why I have a treadmill desk in my room. So
And you know what? I
work-
think that's probably also a really good thing to motivate people who are watching this show. Like, hey, you can multitask. There's no reason just because you are, enjoying your life and working that you can't also get your steps in and take care of your physical health.
Well,
I
there's
think
one
walk and
really
watch.
admirable.
There is one very good reason, and that's laziness.
Oh man, not doing stuff is so great.
It's so awesome doing nothing.
John
I
Mulaney has a
love
joke where he's
doing
like,
nothing.
not doing nothing is like heroin for adults. You're like, oh, nothing.
It's great. Anyway, Cambridge, so keep your eyes open, guys. Later today, another walk and talk, also known as the companion videos, are coming later today. I just found it really helped me that I can kill two birds with one stone. It's
Yeah.
great. Because it takes me like an hour to do the companion videos, so why not do it on the treadmill?
100%.
Okay, let's see here. Kevin Lewis writes, Crawl, we're going to need a bigger a little bit of a play on the classic Jaws line. We're going to need a bigger boat. Guys, if you haven't seen Crawl, check out Crawl. It's not going to be on anybody's top 10 movies of the year list, but it is so much ridiculous fun. It's absolute ridiculous fun. Flooding in Florida, alligators come in. Just fantastic. You got to check it out. Give Luigi a Ring writes, my wife and I love cheesy shark movies. If you haven't already watch Bait, just for the laughs. It's terrible. I think I've seen Bait. Let me just make sure I'm thinking about the right movie here. Where did it go?
I've never seen a cheesy shark movie, like the Sharknado movies. Is that?
Oh my gosh.
I know it's a thing.
There's
I
a
actually was
great
dating a
bad
guy, and he said I can't go out tonight because it's the beginning of Shark Week. I was like, what?
Oh, I've heard
Is
that.
a
I've heard
thing?
some people take Shark Week very, very seriously.
Yeah.
Okay, so this isn't the movie I was thinking about. So no, I have not seen Bait. One of my favorite cheesy shark movies, though, is the one with Samuel L. Jackson. I think it's Deep Blue Sea.
Oh,
Isn't it called Deep Blue Sea?
Isn't he
maybe.
in the Jaws sequel as well?
Hold on.
Oh, it's not. I gotta go look up Deep Blue Sea.
All right, how many times has Samuel L. Jackson been eaten by a shark?
That's the big question. It is Deep Blue Sea.
Is it Deep
Okay.
Blue Sea? I knew
With
that it was
Thomas
Deep
Jane.
something. Yeah.
With Thomas Jane.
okay.
That's
I
a
get
good
kick.
one.
Michael Rappaport's in that.
And
Stellan
LL Cool
Skarsgård.
J.
LL Cool J.
As
Oh,
the
yeah.
chef. Yes.
I get a big kick. One of the funniest jump scare moments in the history of film is when Samuel L. Jackson bites it. That's like one of the best. I love that one. But I have not seen Bait yet. Okay, last question for Erin and Kris who are here. Jason Espinoza writes, The Boys drops tomorrow morning. Are you excited? Dude, You have no idea. I am so stoked for this show. Now, unfortunately, it's not like Netflix. They're not dropping the entire season. This is Amazon Prime. I believe Amazon Prime drops their shows one episode at a time. I believe. I could be wrong about that. Because if it was all at once, I'd be binging the hell out of this thing tomorrow. For those of you who don't know, The Boys, based on the graphic novel, it imagines a world where the superheroes are actually really dicks. And it's a bunch of regular guys who have had enough and decide that these superheroes need to be taken down a notch. It is hard R. It is violent. It is edgy. And the trailers have blown my mind. I love the look. Have you guys seen the trailers for The Boys?
I've seen the pilot.
You've seen the pilot?
Yeah.
How?
I got
Or are you allowed
invited
to
to a
say?
screening. It was a really random thing. There was no one there. It was like 12 of us in the theater and me and my best friend Megs. And we had the best time. And it's so good. It's such a great adaptation.
When did this happen?
We got to see it like 2 months ago.
Well, okay. So you weren't doing this show yet.
No.
So I'll let that pass.
Yeah, so I'm not going to get fired.
But like Carl Urban and
Yeah.
was it
really,
good?
It's so good. It is a really faithful adaptation. They even do like some really great casting choices. This isn't a spoiler at all. But so young Huey, or wee Huey, is designed off of Simon Pegg. And
Right.
Simon Pegg's a little too old to play that part now, so he's playing Huey's dad in the show.
I was gonna say, but
which
yeah,
is really,
he
really
is
cool.
in it,
So
yeah.
he's still in it. It's Dennis Quaid's son playing Huey, who does an amazing job. Carl Urban, though, steals the show. Is so great. It is bloody. It is messed up. It is so dirty. It is not safe for work at all. I mean, if you're like me and you have your door open while you watch TV, don't do that, because people are going to be like, why is Kris watching so many orgies today? That seems excessive even for her. But it's phenomenal. And if you haven't read the comic, I mean, be prepared. It is a
What's the
dirty,
name of their
dirty thing.
Superman character? I keep forgetting the name of the
Homelander, and he's part of the
Homelander.
Seven.
Right, part of the Seven. So have you ever? Do you know anything about The Boys, Erin?
I do.
Okay. Oh
I
my.
auditioned for it,
No!
and I didn't get it.
Oh no!
Boo!
But it's okay because my friend Dominique McGilligan from Astronaut Wives Club, she got the role and she's phenomenal, and so I'm excited to watch her do it. It's kind of like when I auditioned for Cersei Lannister. I go, you know what?
Wait a minute.
I don't mind.
You auditioned for Game of Thrones?
Did. I don't mind losing a role when I'm watching the show and I go, yeah, they made the right choice. I don't mind that. So I'm going to watch it, and I'm a little butthurt right now as I am about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood opening. But that's okay. Like, there's certain projects that, like, I just go, whatever, it doesn't matter. But then there's some things that I go, you know what? That one stings a little bit. But I will watch it, and I'm looking forward to it being awesome. Because, yes, I didn't see the pilot like Kris, but I read the pilot, and it was awesome.
I cannot, seriously guys, I cannot wait for this. I'm so beside myself. But anyway, guys, hey, listen, we've hit the hour-and-a-half mark, so, people like Erin and Kris have things they got to do, so we're going to let them go at this point. But before we let you go, Erin, where can people find you in your adventures online?
Well, I'm all over the internet while I'm at what am I? Oh, there it is. At Erin L. Cummings. And also, if you're in the Los Angeles area, I would love for you to come see me this Sunday at the 8 p.m. show of Drag Queen Bingo at Hamburger Mary's in West Hollywood. We'll be raising money for Kit Crusaders. And also, if you like to listen to podcasts, check me out on Kappa Kappa Cancer.
And, of course, also having her own adventures, and now we got to start wondering about her viewing choices at home when she's alone. Of course, Kris Carr is here. Kris, where can people find you?
Gosh, at Hamburger Mary's this weekend. That sounds amazing.
Oh, yeah.
I've always wanted to go. I always have ramen across the street from it. You can find me at actor Kris Carr on Twitter, on Instagram. If you want to learn more about The Boys, I have a video on all the different superhero characters that you can go check out via Nerdwire, where I also do videos.
All right, guys, thanks so much for being here, you two, and we will talk to both of you next week. All right, guys, don't worry, though. There's still a bunch of questions. We still got a little bit of time here, so we're going to continue on taking the questions that you guys are sending in. Next one up comes to us from Willow Yang, who writes, I never knew that I needed to see you answering questions on the treadmill until yesterday. When can we expect your series of workout videos? Yeah, that's not something you're going to want to watch at home while you're eating dinner. I can guarantee you that. But I got to admit, it was so great for me to be able to do the companion video while doing something else at the same time. I don't know if, I know for a lot of people who watch the companion videos, they don't even watch the video anyway. They just listen to it. So it didn't really affect anything too awful much. But I think I'm going to keep doing it at least for a little while, and unless everybody starts telling me they find it annoying, that's fine. But I got to admit, it does come in handy for me to be able to do it. So we'll just call it a walk and talk. The companion videos / walk and talks. There you go. Thanks for that, Willow. I appreciate that. All right, David Willard writes, can we talk about the Jojo Rabbit trailer? That ending had me laughing so damn hard. This looks amazing. You know, I did not know what to expect, David, from a Jojo Rabbit trailer. I didn't know what to expect. I'm like, how do you do Hitler in a whimsical, funny way that doesn't de-demonize who and what Hitler was? That seemed like a tall order. And then I'm watching this, I'm thinking, oh my God, somehow Taika Waititi found a way to do it. And I gotta admit, I found it delightful. Like, did it blow me away? No, I'm still like, what is this, kind of in a way? But it was charming, man. It was really charming. I am very intrigued by this movie. I have been since they announced it, but I'm certainly very intrigued about it now. Ryan Lohner writes, Rutger Hauer in Merlin 1998 miniseries. I don't think I saw that. Is really underrated. Greatest ever delivery of the line, you were saying? Okay, that sounds, I might have to just look that up on YouTube now, Ryan, just to hear that line, because hearing Rutger Hauer say that line would be amazing. All right, Ryan Lohner writes, a bit eerie that Hauer passes away now as Blade Runner is set in 2019. I don't even remember that. Was it really? Was Blade Runner set in 2019? I don't even remember that. But oh yeah, that just kind of adds to the bitterness of it, which is really unfortunate. Again, 75, which it's too young. It's too young for him to go, man. It's just too young. Patrick Clare writes, hello, it's the big fan from Brazil again. Just want to say you guys are great. Love the show and want to share with you, John, that after 11 years of training nonstop, I got my Muay Thai black belt. Well, congratulations. Can you even get black belt in Muay Thai? Anyway, well, whatever it is, but being Brazilian, I would just assume you'd be in jiu-jitsu. But hey, dude, it takes a lot of commitment and work, and congrats on that. Okay. Rufino Salazar Jr. writes, hey, John, really been enjoying the show, and hi, Kris. Thank you so much, Rufino. I appreciate it. It's always nice when people want to send in stuff just to be nice. Thank you, sir. I'm Upset writes, over under 5% Triple H returns for MCU Blade. Come on, Feige. Oh, God, no. Look, Triple H is one of my all-time favorite wrestlers. I really like Hunter Hearst Helmsley, or Paul, as his real name is. I love Triple H. Love him. He cannot act. He cannot act. And even though he basically had no lines in Blade Trinity, he still ended up being bad. So I love the guy, but no, man, do not put him in the new Blade movie. Drinks on Me writes, season 5 of Supernatural was the end of the series for me. Stopped watching after that. That was the original showrunner's ending. Network kept it going to make money. I don't trust their vision. To me, it gets better. Season 5 was great, but the show, that wasn't the highlight of the show for me. The show even got better. Even though they got in a different showrunner, lots of great shows switch showrunners and they turn out great. And as far as you saying they kept it going to make money, newsflash, every show gets made to make money. I don't know if you knew that. Studios and networks only greenlight shows to make money. Did you know this? I knew that. But it's true. Did they keep the show going to make money? Absolutely they did. But they started the show to make money too. So that's nothing new. And yeah, like I said, Supernatural, look, there are seasons that aren't as good as within the first 5. But there are some seasons that they've had subsequently that are even better than the original 5 seasons. And again, I would highly encourage you to check it out. Because there are some weaker seasons, but there are some bloody fantastic seasons that come after episode 5 as well. And I've been on board ever since. I think this show's been spectacular. You have to be doing something right to keep somebody like me on board for like 13 years, which is what they've kept me on board. And I would highly encourage you, Drinks, to check it out, because I think you might be pleasantly surprised. I mean, don't judge it until you see it. Don't judge that nothing else after this was good. Maybe see it for yourself. Now, if you got your own principle that you just don't want to check it out, that's fine. That's fine. That's fair. But I gotta tell you, man, I've been very, very happy with that show. R Squared Games writes, do you think Feige will introduce Fantastic Four in the cosmic realm, or will they do it in Black Panther 2 since his first appearance was in their comic? I know. I think they're going to introduce Fantastic Four in Fantastic Four. I really do. And I do think there's a bunch of people with fan theories that's going to involve quantum realm stuff, and maybe they are from the 60s and just disappeared into the quantum realm, and now they come out and they've got powers. Whatever it is they do, I really don't think they're going to introduce him in Black Panther 2. That just seems very out of step with what Black Panther is. It doesn't matter what they did in the comics. I really don't think that would fit. I just think they're going to be introduced in their own film. And I don't know if that's going to be in 2023 or 2024, but I think they're going to go that route. I think they're going to just introduce them in their own movie. We'll wait and see. We'll find out, though. You might be right. Abraham Asif writes, I didn't love Blade Runner, but absolutely love the scene on the rooftop. All those moments will be lost like tears in the rain. R.I.P. Rutger Hauer. He was the candle that burned brightest. If you know the movie, he was the candle that burned brightest. And again, it's just too bad we lost a guy. We lost an incredibly talented performer far too soon. Again, 75, man, just too young. Let's see. T-Ness93 writes, any chance for an Alita Battle Angel sequel? Oh, yeah, there's a chance. I think there's definitely a chance. Look, did that movie do great at the box office? No. But if it didn't break even, it at least came close to breaking even, right? And now, I mean, that's not what you want to hear. Hold on a second. Alita box office. What did it end up? It ended up making just around 400, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, made $440 million. So $400 million, which, okay, no, it lost money. I take it back. It lost money. But I thought it was pretty good. I liked Alita. Now it's just going to be up to, look, Disney now owns this property. It's now a Disney property. Disney is in the James Cameron business. They're doing, Avatar with James Cameron. They own his, the Avatar movies, whatever. It just seems to me to be something that they would take. I think Disney would look at this and say, you know what? They did a pretty good job, and we think we could have handled this movie better. We think we would have had a better marketing campaign. We think we would have positioned this thing better. We think if we had Alita back then, we think we could have made this movie do a little bit better. Because honestly, Alita's pretty damn good. It has its issues. It's not one of the great movies, but I had fun with Alita. I thought it was pretty good, and I think it deserved better than it got. And a lot of that has to do with a terrible first trailer that just turned everybody off. And once you never get a second chance to make a first impression. And I think their first trailer made a bad first impression on a lot of people, and they just never got back on board with it. And I think maybe Disney thinks they could do a better job. So likely, I don't know if it's likely, but I definitely think there's a very legitimate chance that Disney may roll the dice and do a sequel for it. At least I would like to see one. Richard Green writes, John, have you heard about the Evo theaters that have a bar, game room, and bowling lanes? Evo Entertainment. I have never heard of it, but I'm fascinated. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can find this. Evo Entertainment, Los Angeles. Do they have one in Los Angeles? Do they have one in Los Angeles? I don't know if they have one in Los Angeles. Hold on, I'm looking up locations. No. Apparently there's nothing in Los Angeles. So, no, I've never heard it because they don't have anyone anywhere near me, but that sounds like a cool environment. I love the idea of that. That does sound like a really cool environment. All right, Isaac S. writes, favorite Bong Joon-ho film, Memoirs of a Murder for me. I got to admit, I'm not the biggest fan. Like, everybody talks about the one with Chris Evans with the train. Why am I freezing on the name of the movie? I was just thinking about it the other day. Anyway, you know the one I'm talking about. Everybody loves that movie, and honestly, it's not the best movie to me. To be honest with you, Snowpiercer. I'm not that big on Snowpiercer. However, Okja was pretty damn solid, but my favorite movie of his is not one that I'm super over the moon in love with, but I really quite enjoyed, was The Host. That's one that I quite enjoyed. And really, its visual effects, I think it came out in like 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, somewhere around there. The visual effects for that time was fantastic, like a great monster kind of movie. I gotta say that's my favorite one. But again, I must admit, I'm not the biggest fan in the world of his, but he's got a couple of decent ones, Oakjaw especially, but Host is my favorite one. Matthew Wheeler writes, started watching all the Star Wars movies with my 7-year-old. That's called good parenting, Matthew. We are watching one movie every few weeks, culminating with the new one and Galaxy's Edge. Dude, somebody send this man Parent of the Year. That is some good parenting, my friend, right there. Oh my God, to be a 7-year-old and to watch the Star Wars movies with my dad, and then it ends with taking me to Galaxy's Edge. Dude, tip of the hat, sir. We salute you. Your international friends salute you, sir. That's some good parenting right there. All right. Alan Valley writes, thoughts on Star Trek Picard trailer. We talked about it a couple of times on the show. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. We've talked about it on the show previously. I thought it was fantastic. I cannot wait for this show. Alan follows up with, do you think we will see Hulk in Phase 4? I don't. I would like to, and there's a possibility we do, but do I think we will? I don't think so, but it would be great if we do. Casinema Reviews writes, 1 of 3. Here's how Rey skying, the term I shared last weekend, connects to Rey Skywalker theorists. Oversimplifying is their evidence is face value. Views of things in The Force Awakens, and they ignore facts that prove she can't be. Overcomplicating is them coming up with a convoluted explanation of how she is Luke's daughter. The hypocrisy is these same people claim Luke was out of character in The Last Jedi, yet wanted it to turn out that he abandoned his own daughter. I hope that helps clear up my term meaning. A little bit. And, look, yeah, whenever you get into a movie, an upcoming movie, Casinema, that has got a lot of people buzzing, has got some people theorizing and all that kind of stuff, you are going to get people stretching logic. Like, I remember for me, as soon as I saw The Force Awakens, I just came out and said, oh, well, clearly she's not Luke's daughter. They made some clear, direct implications that she is not Luke's daughter. They made it clear and obvious. So I was actually surprised after seeing The Force Awakens to see some people then, or a lot of people jumping online and start theorizing that she's Luke's daughter. And I'm like, wait, how can you possibly think that when this, and this is clearly stated in the movie? And kind of just overlooking those things entirely. And yes, there are, what we all do, by the way, we all are guilty of this, me included, you included, that in order to try to justify a fan theory, we will overcomplicate something that is clearly very simple in order to try to warp it and stretch it to fit our theory. Like, we as film fans, and let's admit it, guys, we all do it. One of the things, and we as film fans, we do annoying things all the time. I do it, you do it. One of the things that we often do is we take such an unscientific approach to fan theories. Because what we do is we try to stretch and alter the facts to fit our theory instead of coming up with a theory that fits in within the facts. Right? That's what we do. We do think, I do it, you do it, we all do it. It's a terribly annoying thing that us film fans do. But instead of just saying, okay, here is what we know, therefore our theory is this, we say, no, here's my theory. Now let's look at the facts through the lens of my theory instead of the other way around. It's a totally ass-backward things that we do. I try not to do it. I'm sure most of you try not to do it. But if we're being honest, we're guilty. We're all guilty of doing it sometimes. And I think a lot of the stuff around the Rey theorizing and a lot of stuff around the Star Wars stuff is a great example of that. People looking at starting with their theory and then looking at the evidence through the starting point of their theory, when really what it should be is start with the evidence, then let that shape your theory. Don't let your view of the evidence be shaped by your theory. Let your theory be shaped from the view of the evidence. But it's what we do, right? It's part of what we do. It's just one of the natural things that we as film fans do, and you are guilty of it, and I'm guilty of it. Star Wars fans are guilty of it. Marvel fans are guilty of it. We're all guilty of it. We all do it. But it's something we need to try to cut down on. But I do like that term, man. Rey skying. I like that. That's actually pretty good. All right. Darren TB 1000 writes, took my mom to see yesterday. She actually went to a Beatles concert back in the 60s. Dude, that's special. That's really special. Fabulous movie, great music, and real experience shared that I won't ever forget. Dude, listen, seriously. I talk about this all the time, but you know, one of the things that I do every year, other than this past year, is I go home for Christmas every year. And one of the things I do is I take my family to go see whatever the new Star Wars movie is. My mom is the one who introduced me to Star Wars. It's one of my favorite things. I love doing that. It's just one of my absolute favorite things. And when there's a special connection to there, it even makes it all the more special, Darren. And for you to have a mom who actually went to see the Beatles, and I'm not even a big Beatles fan, but for you to have a mom who went to go see the Beatles in the 60s, to then be able to, you get to take her now to go to a movie like that and have that shared experience, you're right. You will never forget that. That's one of the great things about movies and why I love the movie-going experience so much. You remember these things. You have these great shared experiences that will stay with you for the rest of your life. And that's awesome. And that's amazing. And I think that's fantastic. So thank you for sharing that story, Darren. I really appreciate that. All right. We just got a few minutes left here, guys. Let's keep on motoring. Hector Travels writes, when I was a kid, I loved Mall Cop, but saw it recently. It's pretty bad now. Any movies that are not as great as when you all first saw them? The only one I can really think of, and it's a set of films, is the Star Wars prequels. Because, you know, you got to understand, when the Star Wars prequels are coming out, I was a kid who, I grew up watching the Star Wars movies. I didn't think we were ever going to see Star Wars movies again. And I thought I was the only kid who loved Star Wars. I didn't realize when I was that young that how many people in the world beloved Star Wars. I thought I was one of the only people. And this new Star Wars movie is coming. Got all excited about it. We heard, we heard that George Lucas was coming back and to make this new world. Liam Neeson was going to be in it and all this. Anyway. And it's the only time in my life that I was so personally invested that this movie has to be good, that I walked in and went, and there are good things about the prequels. There are good things about the prequels. There are. But that I just convinced myself, that was great. Yay! And then I watched it again, and I liked it a little bit less. And then I watched it again, and I liked it less. Then I watched it again, and I liked it less. Till finally I realized this is a terrible movie. Now, you also got to remember, at the time, I was working in visual effects, and to see the visual effects in Star Wars: The Phantom Menace was like nothing we had ever seen before. And so I saw the movie like 17, 18, 19 times in theaters because quite often, as I was working in the visual effects company, we would all go, let's have a staff meeting. And that was code for us for, let's take a break, go to the theater and go watch The Phantom Menace again because of the visual effects, right? But the more and more I watch, every time I watch it, I realized more and more how bad it was. And it was just step and repeat for otherwise. Now, that's only happened to me once in my life. It was with the Star Wars prequels. Then like the Force Awakens comes out. The difference between my experience with the prequels and the Force Awakens was every time John Schnepp and I would go back to the theater to watch the Force Awakens again, we liked it even more. With the prequels, we watch it, then we watch it again, we liked it a little bit less. We watched it again, liked it less, liked it less, liked it less. For Schnepp and I, we would because the theater's right across the street from our office, we'd go over and watch the Force Awakens, and every time we saw it, we loved it more. And we liked it more. Now, I still don't think Force Awakens is as good as the original trilogy, but that's the only time, Hector, that I can really think of that happening. So that's my experience. Anyway, Mr. Hero writes, Netflix's live-action Avatar: The Last Airbender series is wrapping up production. Are you excited? No. I'm not sure you ever watched the cartoon. I've only seen a couple of little things of the cartoon, to be honest with you, but I don't know, like these guys who are executive producing this, they also executive produced the M. Night one. Now they claim that, none of our ideas got taken, whatever. They're trying to throw people on the bus. I'll give it a shot. Just like I gave M. Night's movie a shot. I will give this a shot and maybe I'll love it. Just like I did. I had no interest in the new Power Rangers movie. None. But I'm going to give it a shot. I went and gave it a shot and guess what? I was like, that was pretty good, actually. It's not great, but that Power Rangers movie was actually pretty good. I enjoyed that. So when this thing comes out, I'm definitely going to give it a shot and we'll see. But am I excited for it right now? No, I've got no excitement right now. That doesn't mean that can't change, though. Daryl Best Wadley writes, did you see the trailer for Jay and Silent Bob reboot? I did. I didn't think it was a great trailer, but I think the movie's going to be great. It's not the best put together trailer, but I have a feeling the movie itself is going to be a lot of fun. Daryl Best Wildly follows up and writes, do you like Forrest Gump? One of my favorite movies. I do. Unfortunately, though, it did not deserve to win Best Picture. It won Best Picture in the same year that Shawshank Redemption came out. And on every major best film of all time list, Shawshank Redemption is always above and well above Forrest Gump. Shawshank Redemption is just simply one of the greatest films of all time. Should have won Best Picture that year. So I have a little bit of bitterness towards Forrest Gump, but it is really good. Forrest Gump is great. Make no mistake about it. Daryl follows up again and writes, so excited for Eddie Murphy's return to stand-up. I hope he still has it after 30 years. Have you ever seen Raw or Delirious? What do you think of them? Oh, of course. Of course. You can't be a kid in my era and not have watched Raw or Delirious. I mean, of course. Absolutely. I mean, there's stuff in Raw and Delirious he could never do today. They could never do today. Like the Mr. T gag, can't do that today. Can't do that today. But it was simply some of the funniest stuff ever. Can he recapture that? I don't know. And by the way, I don't think it's official. I think just he and I think Eddie Murphy and Netflix are in discussions about doing 3. The news reports is he's in discussions for doing 3 comedy specials for Netflix at the price tag of $70 million, which is crazy big money. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like $23.3 million per comedy special. Nutty. Absolutely nutty. But I'm totally down for it, man. I'm very, very curious to see if he still got it because he was one of the best. He was one of the best. All right. Adrian Musio writes, did I see a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series is coming to Hulu? Yes, please, and thank you. Your thoughts. Have a fantabulous day, everyone. Yes, it is. Hulu, they did announce a while ago that Hulu is developing a series. And apparently one of the writers was the guy who wrote the Wonder Woman script, I believe. I believe one of the guys writing the script is the guy who wrote the Wonder Woman script. So, intriguing. I mean, Hitchhiker's Guide is tricky to do. It's tricky to do. So, I don't know how this is going to turn out as a series. I'm curious, though. I am curious. But yes, you absolutely heard right, Adrian. It is coming to Hulu, absolutely. Chris Warden writes, with movies like Aliens, Avatar, T1, T2, and The Abyss on James Cameron's resume, would you consider him the GOAT of sci-fi film action genre? I don't know that I'm willing to give him that title, but I'll tell you what, there's no denying he's got to be at least in the conversation. He's got to at least be in the conversation. Because, by the way, you didn't put True Lies in there. True Lies is my favorite James Cameron movie and my all-time favorite action movie. So take that list you just made, add True Lies, and he's definitely in the conversation. And you know what? Maybe, Chris, if I sat down and really pondered it for like a half hour, maybe I do come to the conclusion that, yeah, I think James Cameron's the GOAT when it comes to sci-fi action genre. Terminator, Terminator 2, Avatar, Aliens, Abyss, True Lies, on and on. Maybe I come to that conclusion. But just as a reflex action, I'm not ready to do that. But he is one of the greats. He's at least in the conversation, at the very minimum in the conversation. All right. Krypton Cage writes, Doctor Strange 2 plot. Wanda gets trained by Doc only to discover, well, Wanda, she's not a wizard. So I don't know that he trains her. She's not a sorcerer. She's not, anyway. Wanda gets trained by Doc only to discover a means to bring back Quicksilver using the multiverse, and in doing so goes full evil, causing madness. Then Strange fights her, and in the end says Martha. says Martha, and Wanda is not evil anymore. Well, a little bit of a play on something that we talked about a little bit earlier. That's clever. I don't see Doctor Strange training her because she's not a sorcerer. Right, that's not you. But John, in the comics, this isn't the comics. This is the MCU, and in the MCU, that's not where her power comes from. So I don't know, but that seems to be out of character with them. So I don't think they'll do that. But I'll tell you what, the notion, a lot of people talk about maybe the notion that Wanda is the villain. The notion of, because remember, who is she talking about at the end of Endgame? A lot of people think she's talking about Vision, probably, but she could also maybe be talking about her brother. The notion that she finds a way to manipulate multiverse to try to cheat death and either bring back her brother or Vision, because remember, Vision's dead, so it kind of makes more sense for Vision, and that ultimately drives her mad to becoming the villain. It's a possibility. I don't know how likely it is, but it's definitely a possibility that I'm buying into more and more, my friend. All right, Dylan Wolf writes, new Avengers post, Cassie is older, and soon we get Kate Bishop. Any chance we get teases for Patriot in Falcon and Winter Soldier? Do you mean the Iron Patriot? You mean War Machine? I'm not quite sure what you're talking about. And Wiccan / Speed and Scarlet Vision. I'll be honest with you, I'm not... Oh, wait, I do know who Wiccan is. I have no idea who Speed is. To be honest, I have no idea who Wiccan / Speed is, so I'll just say that up front. I don't know. That seems to be overcomplicating what they'd be doing within the scope of this. So I'm going to go out on a limb, Dylan, and guess no, because that seems to just maybe be throwing too many ingredients into the batter. I could be wrong about that. Maybe there's a really, really, really simple way to do it. But off the top of my head, I'm going to guess no. Jared Oberfeld writes, been meaning to say original Star Wars trilogy to specialized rules. It does. The specialized edition is rules. By the way, the prequel de-cheesed edition is also amazing. If you haven't seen those, if you find a way to get your hands on them and watch them, they improve those movies so much. Anyway, removes all the special edition changes and improves the experience. Completely agree, Jared. I've seen the specialized edition. It's better. It's better. Not better than the original, but better definitely than the special editions for sure. I'm totally with you on that. Thanks for bringing it up. Jared follows up with, the Lion King remake was pointless. Oh, I disagree completely. 1000% I disagree. It gave me an incredible emotional experience in the movie. And that's all movies can do. If you take that out, every movie is pointless. Every movie you can name is pointless. But if we ascribe meaning to a movie by what it delivers to us, I had an incredibly emotional experience in the movie theater watching that. I thought it was brilliant beyond brilliant. And it made $185 million in its opening weekend. 9th biggest opening of all the films in history, the 9th biggest opening of any film in history, 2nd biggest film not to be a comic book movie or a Star Wars movie. And it delivered a fabulous experience in the movie theater. If you say that's pointless, then what's the point of any movie? No movie has a point. Every movie is pointless. No movie in the history of movies ever needed to be made. But Lion King, I mean, if you didn't like it, that's cool. It's part of being a film fan. All film's subjective. That's cool. But for me, it was one of the best experiences in the movie theater I've had all year. I thought it was fucking brilliant. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. Anyway, but thank you for sharing your opinion, Jared, man. It's valued here. Even if it's different from the mine, it's valued. All right. Another semi-professional writes, really big super chat. Thank you for that, semi-professional, for supporting the channel on that level. Theory time. Sorry. Scarlet Witch wouldn't be in a dream. Her powers allow her to bend reality. Only in the comic books, not in the MCU so far. Remember, see, a lot of people, we got to remember this. I'll finish reading your comment there in a second. People keep confusing the comic books with the movies. Remember, they are two different things. And in the MCU, reality bending is not one of Wanda's powers. At least it certainly hasn't been up till now. So you got to remember, just because something happens in a comic book or a character can do a certain thing in a comic book does not mean that has anything to do with the movies. I'm just saying keep that in mind. Anyway, her powers allow her to bend reality. WandaVision could be her bending reality too. And yes, this means death doesn't matter. Bring Vision and maybe even Quicksilver, but less likely back to life. There would be serious fallout from this, as she would have distorted the time/reality and caused multiple serious consequences for everyone, not just on Earth, but the galaxy. DS2... What's DS? Oh, Doctor Strange 2. Could then be her and Strange having to fix what she caused, which could even mean saying goodbye to Vision again and for good this time. Just my 2 cents. Love the show. Your focus determines your reality. I will see this, a little bit of this, semi-professional. Again, thank you for sending that in and for supporting the channel on that level. Really appreciate it, man. This also goes along the lines, in a way, with what we were saying before. Like, take out the whole notion of Wanda's reality bending stuff, because that's just not something they've ever suggested is a part of her character in the movie universe, right? But what is part of it? Multiverse. which is stupid, but multiverse is a part of it now. And don't come at me with semantics. John, it's not actually multiverse. What it is the consequences of alternate timelines that are formed when certain things are taken. I know, just that's semantics. There is multiverse stuff, right? I am not opposed nor rejective of the idea that what we could see, and again, there's nothing to suggest this is happening. This is all of us just theorizing, right? To suggest that maybe Wanda does something in a desperate attempt to get back either Wanda or Peter, her brother, to get them back. And that causes problems, maybe drives her crazy. She goes mad. Again, I think the previous movies maybe hinted her going a little dark. And maybe she goes full-blown villain. Maybe all that, instead of leading to her and Doctor Strange needing to fix what she does in WandaVision, maybe that drives her to becoming straight-up Darkseid. And she becomes the antagonist of Doctor Strange 2. Again, this is all just completely baseless theorizing, but that's part of the fun of being a fan, right, man? But I can totally see that part. I'm not willing, I wouldn't put money on that, but I could see the notion of her using WandaVision as her attempt to use her power to take advantage of the multiverse and all that kind of stuff to get back Vision and Quicksilver, and that may cause a lot of unanticipated and unintended consequences that maybe then within WandaVision she needs to fix, but in the process she goes Darkseid, becomes a villain in Doctor Strange 2. That could all be so way off base, it's laughable, but one never knows. There are things that suggest that maybe something like that could happen, and it's a fun thought, and I think there are possibilities there. All right, just time for a couple more quick ones here. Jared Graff writes, Now I don't want to kill, and you don't want to be dead, Silverado. A lot of good single lines, man. That's a good one, by the way. And, just let me make sure, because I was about to say something, and I'm not really sure that I was right to think about it, because I'm thinking Kevin Kline, but hold on a second. Come on, load up. Yes, Kevin Kline, Scott Glenn, Kevin Costner, Danny Glover, all that kind of stuff. That's actually a movie that's filled with some pretty good lines. It has actually, and if I'm not mistaken, it got nominated for a couple of Academy Awards. It got nominated for, it didn't get nominated for what I thought it was nominated for. Sorry about that. It was nominated for Best Sound and Best Music Score. But that's a movie not a lot of people talk about today. So thank you for bringing that up, Jared. I appreciate that. Stubble McShave writes, when I think of Rutger Hauer, I think of Blind Fury. Did I see Blind Fury? Hold on a second. Let me bring that up. I can't remember if I saw it. That was in the 80s, if I'm not mistaken. Came out in 89. No, I did not see this one. That is one I have not seen. But now I'm probably going to have to go and check that one out, because it looks certainly good. Okay. Byron Bay writes, favorite movie wedgie ever. Oh. I'll be honest with you, I can't remember any specific ones off the top of my head. That's not something, you might be surprised to find this out, Byron. That's not something I carry around in my head at all times. I can't remember any off the top of my head to remember, to be honest with you. All right, Fanjecture, who's been one of the sponsors here on the John Campea Show, they write and says, if you're going to do a Lion King sequel, don't follow Simba's story. Create a new story with arguably the two most popular characters, Timon and Pumbaa. See, here's the thing with that, though. That sounds like a direct-to-TV movie, to be honest with you, or a straight-to-home video, or a straight-to Netflix or something. That's what that sounds like to me. If you're going to do a Lion King sequel, I think, Fanjecture, that you got to be focused on the lions. And maybe you do. Now, again, I don't think they should do one, period. I don't think they should do a sequel, period. But if Bob Iger were to call me and say, John, we're going to do a Lion King sequel, it's just too much money on the table not to do one, how should we approach it? I would say, Bob, reconsider, don't do one. But if you are going to do one, I would probably say, continue with the theme of Circle of Life. Create a new story, a new problem, but now you're dealing with Simba's son or daughter or whatever. You're dealing with their offspring. And you can make a completely different story. There's a different challenge, but stay on the theme, because that's really the whole theme of Lion King is the Circle of Life. And stay on that Circle of Life theme And if you stay on that, I think you might have something. But again, my opinion is you just don't do it. That's what I'm thinking anyway. All right, last question of the day, guys. We've gone over 2 hours already. Josh Jones writes, in regards to Lion King 2, I would advise revisiting the soundtrack to Lion King 2, Simba's Pride. There's some great music in that film. You know, and I saw Lion King 2, Simba's Pride. I didn't like it. And I don't remember any of the music. None of it made an impression on me. Well, that doesn't mean that it's not good. But, you know, Erin made a great point earlier, Josh. At least I think she made a great point earlier when she pointed out that, hey, look, we all go into Lion King because we love the music. You do another one, we don't know any of the music to that. There's something to be said for that. But I don't know. Maybe there's some possibilities there, Josh. You might be right. Maybe there are some possibilities there. All right, listen, guys. We've run out of time for now, but from everybody from Frankie Gouge, Grandmaster, and everybody else after that who has sent in live questions, do not worry. Your questions are getting answered in a video today, a companion video / walk and talk. I'll probably do it from my treadmill again. That will be coming a little bit later today. Keep your eyes open for that, and your question is getting answered. So thanks for sending those in. All right, guys, that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here with us. Of course, a special thank you to Aaron Cummings and Cat Car. We start calling her Cat Car. Chris Carr for being on the show. And a special thank you to you guys for being here and being a part of the film fan community with us. Don't forget the John Campea Show returns again tomorrow. Come back for that. Again, a little bit later today, the Walk and Talk, aka the companion video, comes back again. And tomorrow, I'm going to be doing my review because I'm going to go see it this afternoon. My review of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So I'm very anxious to see this. We'll have a lot to talk about tomorrow, I'm sure. That'll do it for me for now, guys. Thanks for being here. My name's John Campea, and until our next show, bye-bye.